All right. Hello and welcome to Clear Waters, where the waters are clear. Clearly. A joke. What is God? I'm willing to hear a definition that makes sense. Welcome to the live stream, Phantom X. Hello and welcome. Had a good weekend. And for you, Mr. Skeptic Philosophy. Welcome to the live stream. Show you this weekend a little bit of your live stream. Also, Javier Soto, welcome to the live stream. Reference to set theory, God is simply the universal set. Javier, what does that mean? The universal set. Maybe the universal set means that is the set of the universe? I'm not sure what that means. Maybe my lack of knowledge. So I noticed that we have a new link for the Discord. So let me fix that right now. Z8. Yeah, definitely different. So we're gonna fix that right now. Okay, updating the link. Oh, and also on the vertical. Perfect. Oh, that is updated. Have a new link. And gotta fix the. There you go. Now we're good. Okay, so that link is updated for anybody that know what God is or has an idea. I'm willing to listen to what you think, suspect, or maybe even know what God is. I'll be interested to hear anybody that knows who God is, what God is, because I'm tired of listening to all this. God is this, God is that, God is a spirit, God is outside the universe, God is inside the universe and inside the universe at the same time. Is the nothingness and the everythingness at the same time, inverted in equalizer. So I think some of the problems that we're having with God is definitions. I don't know if you agree with me. That God is, as God exists, maybe our version of existence is not the same existence for God. Maybe God doesn't exist in the same way we understand existence because he lives outside the universe. So maybe he doesn't exist in an eternal existence that exists in the non-existence. And that reminds me of Mr. West Huff. He doesn't know something, he makes it up. I don't know if you know who Mr. West Huff is. He is the new God's favorite son. He's a rock star in Christianity. Mr. Skeptic Philosophy, Mr. Robert. Skeptic Philosophy writes, it plays with set theory and the set that all sets are in, all the set of all sets, or universal set. It is complex. 2. That can be said by saying that God is the universe. God is the universe. Seems to me that is God is the universe, there's some direction and purpose. Seems to me. The only way I can say that is by living things. Living things are apparently moving in a certain direction. So that tells me that there's something that is programmed in humanity. Hey, Robert, hold on a second. You there, Robert?
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
Very well.
I had to reread your message like 3 times. I don't know if you were trolling me or maybe this is
No, no,
something that is serious.
no. It's a response to the what the gentleman's saying. I've heard it before. I don't know where the other chat you're reading is coming from. Maybe you're streaming on more than YouTube, obviously, or you're getting another
It's
feed that's coming in from the parallel or
yeah,
from the
it's
vertical. Okay,
the vertical, yes.
gotcha. I'm not seeing that text, but yeah, the ideal of sets is that everything is inside of a set. So if we say cups and then we say the set that holds all cups, that everything belongs to the set of cups. And that then we can have a set of sets and we say there is one set that holds all sets and that everything that is inside of that set. So it's the universal set of all things that are. So when he's talking about that God is the set, um, of which all things are. Or I'm not exactly sure exactly how the wording was from the other gentleman, but the ideal is that he is. It's a complex way of saying that God is the universe. Ultimately, that God is all things, or that He is in all sets.
Wouldn't that fall? He wrote in reference to the set theory, God is simply the universal set. Wouldn't that fall until I'm sorry, wouldn't that fall in just a theory, but nothing that gets closer to a
It's
close. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just a way of saying that God is everything. You can't prove a God exists. Period. So to say that it exists in any set is we can't validate it in any individual set. So it's just a proclamation that he's in all sets. It's meaningless. Woo.
One thing that makes me think about God and life, it seems to me that all living things have like a purpose. They have direction. I can see it. To me, that's some type of programming. We are moving always in the direction of pleasure and avoiding pain. And it seems that animals, insects, follow the same pattern.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are more internal drivers than just pleasure, so to speak. So there could be predispositions that something is going towards. It's generally cashed out as comfort. But maybe an animal does a particular trait. Like I'll give you a primary example. What's the fungus that gets in the ants that makes the ants climb up the tree? They're climbing up the tree because the fungus has messed with its neurological system that is making it climb the tree. But it in some senses there's some comfort thing that's going on with the nerve that's what's making it climb the tree. I'm sure there is, but more than that, it's taken over the neurological system very intentionally to make it go up the tree. So I just think there's other drivers other than just comfort or saying that maybe everything is comfort doesn't really say anything because there's a lot of things that could comfort you.
I'm not referring too much to the word comfort, but pleasure. And when I mean pleasure, I associate it more with life because, at least for human beings, death could be represented by pain, and life is more like pleasure. So probably when it comes to insects and uh, microbes or stuff like that, that is very tiny. Probably they're trying to stay alive. That's their purpose.
Yeah. It's all. I think all emotions are divided into two sets, and I've told you before that and that's the positive sets and the negative sets. So, like, hope is something that you move towards, fear is something you move away from, but not just fear. You could put fear, you could put pain. Everything that you don't want goes into one set. Everything that you want goes into the other set. And like this is the carrot and the stick. They represent. I don't want X. I do want Y.
What about anger?
Yeah, anger I would say was a negative emotion because it's a reaction to something that you didn't want to happen. If you wanted it to happen, you wouldn't be angry.
Okay.
I think in the case that you're trying to preserve life and you have no way of running away, probably you will get anger, and that would help you to deal with the negative.
Sure, it's just anger is primarily though it's trying to make the negative go away. I mean, whether it's by physical
Oh yeah,
violence or by whatever, it's
but
I don't
isn't
like X.
well, but then you could say it's also a positive because you're in a negative state and you're using anger to get away from the negative state, right?
Right. Well, and this is
Yeah,
you
so
have
it's a
a negative
positive emotion. It's
You know,
it's a positive one.
it's not a positive one. It's not a positive one because you're moving as has been mentioned here by Javier before. You're trying to move from one state to the other state. They're going to try to reach the other state. Uh, but it is something you have things that you want and things you don't want. That just as soon as you want something, it's inherent that you're going to have what you don't want. If I want to eat something, it's I don't want to starve. There's always an opposite of.
Yeah.
Some people are saying 8-3-2020 says that God is kindness, love, hope, joy, and healing.
Well, I don't know what that
whatever
even
that means. 8-3-2020. Those are things that sounds very nice, but how can we connect the God to those words? I mean, what does that mean? Trying to find a little bit of more connection to whatever we think God is with the question. Maybe God is all that you're saying. Maybe God is goodness. But then where does evil or bad comes from? So go ahead.
It really just sounded like what he said was God is the positive set. Really, that's all it sounds like. That when people say stuff like this, God is love, God is hope, God is all of these, all of the positive set of emotions, right? It's basically just saying, all of the good stuff, that's God. Yeah, that doesn't say anything. So I could make a thing up and say Chubala. Chubala is all of the
Chulam.
bad. Oh, Chula. Oh, there
Tulum.
you go. Chulam. Chulam. I was just making up a word. I wasn't trying to go for your target there, but let's say Chulam. Chulam is all of the good set. That's just what the good set is. We call it Chulam. It
I
doesn't really do anything.
I think that God is only good and love. That would represent a problem, because in my view that would create a unbalance in the universe.
Yeah, I mean, what's the old one that had the two different dynamics that fought against one another forever? It's an older religion. Phantom, I know you know this one, but it's got two different equal light and dark. Very old religion. I can't think of the name. Zoroastrianism. I
was
couldn't think
going
of
to
it.
say I don't know about Zoroastrianism, but
Okay.
I almost said that, but I would have been just a shot in the dark because I've
Yeah.
studied it.
So Zoroastrianism, everything winds up going back towards it because people realize that we have things that we categorize as X and Y, things I like, things I don't like, good things, bad things, that we categorize ourselves as good and bad. So this is why we're gonna have this dichotomy in our mind of the things I like, the things I don't like. And you're going to have some manifestation of that is always going to be the maximum representation of the good and the maximum representation of the. Otherwise, God had to be both characters. is not both characters.
Some religions get away with it though. They have, you know, God being all, the good
yeah.
and the bad.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think the Old Testament was fully committed to that. I mean, when you see Isaiah, was it 45? I think does the, or maybe it's 53. I'll have to look again. But Isaiah does the bit that God creates good and evil, and some people say that this Hebrew word is more so the word calamity, or bad things happening to you rather than evil. But it's still contrasting it against the word good, right? It's not as if it's in a vacuum. It's saying X and Y, these two polarizations. So it's saying good over here and evil over here, that God creates both of them. But that's an Old Testament idea that modern Christians now are like, no, but we have to make God like the essence of goodness. So they don't really follow that doctrine. But early Hebrews, like they had no reason to say, oh, that God is only goodness. They didn't have that thinking.
Do you guys notice that some of the definitions that some of the viewers are given are mainly emotional? And when I ask questions or point out that people are believing because of emotional reasons, they say no, it has nothing to do with feelings. But normally, seems to me that believers will present words or definitions that relate to feelings. But
Yeah.
if we, I mean, one of the things that I notice about the universe, it seems to me that everything is moving. I don't know. I'm not aware of anything that, at least that we have investigated as human beings, that is static in the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of this can be replaced with another character. You can say the flying spaghetti monster is, and just replace that with literally everything they're saying about God. And it doesn't change any, like it's no more demonstrable than the other claim.
Well,
Nothing about the claim changing has made it more demonstrable.
some of these comments out of Babylon says, that's Hollywood, Clearwaters. For there to be light, there must be dark. Made for TV believe God is good. There's no dark. And Viking Lloyd writes, God is sanctuary for all life. So, yeah, I mean, some of these definitions or explanations probably create more confusion than solving the problem of not knowing what God is, in my point of view.
I think they've backed themselves into the corner with the triomnies. Like they've made more problems. Like the Jews didn't have all of these problems with their standard because they didn't have the triomnies the way that modern Christians have them. And by that I mean things like that God is all loving or all benevolent, right? And that he wants to prevent evil. He wouldn't want bad things happening to people, but yet they do. And God's all powerful. Then why do bad like if he is all powerful, then how is it that he constantly fails to obtain? Like he wants X, but he's not obtaining it. And people, they try to cash this out constantly of saying it's our fault. It's our fault. It's so unbelievably clear to me though that if God could have created a different first person, he could have made a different person rather than Adam, of thousands of different possibilities, a John, a Joe, a Tom, any different possible first human with a different temperament. If he could have made a different first human that would not have eaten the fruit, then why didn't he? And if wasn't possible that every possibility of first human that he could have made, every one of them would have eaten the fruit, then how are you saying that we had free will? Like if all humans would have eaten the fruit, no matter what first human he made would have eaten it, then you can't say that we had free will. But if he could have picked a different one and he picked this one, then he chose this atrocity to be upon us. He picked the one that would have eaten the fruit and not the one that didn't.
Do you think open theism solves this problem?
In what way? You say open, like not the omnis. I think the omnis calls this.
Well, open theism is the idea that God knows everything, or he knows all true facts, but the future isn't true. Like in no cases is the future true. So
Hmm.
God can't know the future.
Well, that's an interesting one. If God can't know the future, then we have problems with ideas that they use, such as Jeremiah 1:5, that God, where Jeremiah says that He knew me in my mother's womb. He knew these different things about Him
Sure,
that are
sure.
suggesting that He's knowing who the person that He would be. But
Yeah, I was just curious if you thought open theism could solve this
yeah,
specific problem.
anything that kind of get puts a chink in the armor to the omnis. Like the omni problem is if he knows that the outcome is going to happen and he has the power. Um, what's the other one that you hit? Because he could you put a chink in any of them. If he doesn't have power to
Yeah,
change it, like there's not a problem
there
anymore. It's fixed.
it's the power, the will, and the knowledge.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you take any of those away, it
The problem goes
contradiction.
away. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we do a little exercise right now and we take the emotional aspects of God away from 5 minutes, I mean, what are we supposed to talk about God? One thing that came to mind, and I mentioned it like 5 minutes ago, what's that everything in the universe seems to be moving. I suspect that there's something behind the moving, continuous moving. I don't know if you guys want to input anything. I don't know, probably from the viewers will be like, what are you guys talking about? You're going to talk about God without mentioning anything that has to do with goodness and love, light, but just as a test, a different perspective. Talk about the emotions and the goodness. It seems to me, and just to bring something up, it seems to me that life is moving constantly, because one of the things that God, that life or God or whatever doesn't want is to stop moving for some reason. So it seems to me that it probably could, it's a possibility that life or God or whatever is continuously moving at all levels of life because it doesn't want to stop for a reason.
I'm having trouble tracking you. What can you tell me kind of what you're thinking?
I think that one of the problems that we have with religions and God is because you blur the lines or the lenses to see God, because people are looking in emotional ways, giving my feel good, let me have my emotional benefits from believing in God. But taking those away and try to look at God and what God is doing without, without blurring your vision critically, because we're thinking emotionally about God, moving those things away and not expecting anything from this God emotionally wise. I could think, okay, what is God trying to accomplish, or life or universe or whatever is out there seems to me that is trying to accomplish something. And that explains why everything keeps moving and vibrating. And it seems to me that at least for us and some animals and insects, there's direction. Something is pointing us to a direction of continue moving. And the case of us human beings, we really get bored very fast when we are presented with the same scenario for a period of time, and then we have to jump into some kind of exploration and discovery, and we see again life in a new perspective. When we go through to those things, we try to accomplish something that is going to take you to a new understanding, a new place, a new level, something that we can discover. So it seems that us physically, mentally, we are doing what God or the universe is asking us to do. Continue moving, don't stop. Just throwing that out there, I'm trying to not to think about the emotional aspects of God, make me feel good. give me a new heart. What is God doing? What is God? What is he trying to accomplish? It doesn't seem to me, I don't see this life as something that is happening and random, like there's no purpose. Even myself, that I don't believe that the God of the Bible is real or the Quran, that's why I cannot rule out that there is something out there. Because as a programmer myself, I can see programming in lots of things.
I
Mm-hmm.
I personally think it's very telling when a god character, when their main goal to hear someone talk is about them. It's about that group or that set. Like the, it seems to me if there was a god character, any real one, whatever their goal was, it would be a clear, defined goal that they're trying to do. Whereas if we're making the god up in our head, like the god's goal is something about us, right?
Mhm.
It's got to have to do with us specifically. So I think that's a very telling thing that everybody's like, well, God wants a bride, or God wanted love, and that's us. So it's all somehow like all of the god's goals is about them somehow. I think that's extraordinarily telling.
It-
That's
it-
go
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 ahead,
ahead.
Phantom. Go ahead, Phantom.
That's kind of interesting because like we're kind of doing that now. Like AI girlfriends are a thing, and it's becoming more and more of a problem, I think.
Yeah.
Well, AI Jesuses are a thing too. So
Well, yeah, there's that. But I'm just
there's
saying, like you could look at it like you said, God wanted love, and so he created us. And I was like, well, yeah, that kind of sounds weird. But then I was like, well, wait a minute, we are kind of doing that.
yeah. Does that make it pathetic? Like the idea that we're sitting there
I,
programming a way to make ourselves someone to love us, and like this is very like parallel to what the God story is, that he's creating us to love him.
it seems to me that sometimes I even entertain the possibility that we're being used as a kind of like a Land Rover. I know this sounds crazy, but we're supposed to be like exploring this side of the universe, or this exploring this earth, or exploring whatever we have around us, and whatever we collect as data information around us, and we find value, like assign value to that data, is injected into our mind, into the unconscious. It seems to me that could be some kind of network that we all have access to, not directly but indirectly. So I don't know. I'm just throwing things out there. Sometimes I think like we're like a horse, and we are being ridden by some kind of spirit, in order to have access to physicality and gather information. Once we're done with exploring, we're done with this body and go somewhere else, or got into another one that has more functionality. But that part that you said about God supposedly trying to experience love and see a parallel of us trying to do the same thing, I don't discard anything. It seems to me that there's a possibility that if there's a God or a universe or something out there, probably it's looking for another God. It cannot believe that it's by itself, and it's looking for something else. It's looking for something, or probably, like some people say, I think even Elon Musk is saying that we're in a simulation, probably like a game, which I don't see it that much. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I don't personally buy the simulation thing. Um, uh, First of all, we have to have a what do you call it? When you have a precedent, you have to have a precedent of, and as much as we'd like to think, we don't have a precedent of an internal like system of artificial intelligence that's running some kind of AI program. So we don't have a precedent of even one to say that there is some kind of simulation of intelligence that's operating. And maybe there never will be. Secondly, it seems like there's an energy problem with that. That's if we don't know the energy rules of that game, like we're inside of an energy system, and there's certain laws that we have to follow, but we wouldn't know what the energy laws of the simulation world, of the simulated world that we're in. We wouldn't know what those rules are. We can only
Right.
assume that they could operate like ours do, but that's a heavy assumption. Something would have to be stabilizing those, that makes them consistent. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be able to create in them.
Well, one of the things that left me thinking this weekend, I heard something about Elon Musk pointing to the direction that if we grab all the human beings' words and the way you talk, the way you speak, the way you answer questions, and you take all that information and you put it like in a AI, and you just bring your face into a computer. I mean, someone is talking to you in an AI version. And I don't think we have achieved not even like 10% of the power of AI yet. What's the sound?
New persons joined.
Oh, that's Aaron. Hey, Aaron.
Sound? I don't think I'm making sound.
Okay,
Sounded like
no,
I'm
slurping or
pushed to
something.
talk, so
no worries. So yeah, so I think that if I don't know, in 5 years from now, the AI makes big, humongous steps forward, and you could have you could be talking to a person on the computer, and that is AI, and you will not be able to tell.
yeah, I agree. That seems like that's gonna inevitably eventually happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, what's funny now is like we have all of these different religions that are making like AI Jesuses or AI the characters that would answer like Jesus would, and what we're going to eventually have is we're going to have AI Catholic Jesus, AI Baptist Jesus, all these different groups that they imagine Jesus slightly different, that they would answer the questions slightly different. We're going to have all of these AIs that are going to be a thing, and I can't really wait to pit this Jesus AI against that Jesus AI for the two Jesus AIs to argue over some anachronistic thing.
So Answers in Genesis put out their own AI.
Oh
Did you know that, Robert?
no, I mean I know a lot of them are doing it.
Yeah, this was like, I don't know, maybe a year ago or so. They had their own chatbot on their website. So I went out there and got it to tell me that the flood never happened.
Yeah, Alex O'Connor's been playing with one. He posted like 7 hours ago a video of I didn't watch the video, but he has a video with an AI that talks about God, and he's just got this big grin on his mouth because he's been conversating with it. But he gets a lot of these AIs to break down and like admit the problems.
Yeah.
Not there yet, but probably in 5, 7 years, I think it's gonna be to that level that it's
Yeah.
not gonna be making mistakes. And just like people having AI companions, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I think probably a few people are gonna have gods in AI.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's going to happen for sure.
So God of the Bible and Jesus gonna have competition.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
there already are people who have built AI religions, so
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately,
it's not going to get.
they're of no significant size, but they are already a thing.
Yeah, and it's not going to get better.
And that is crazy. That is absolutely crazy. There's something about life that is beautiful and worrisome at the same time. What happens when we die? We go to heaven? We go into darkness, like some atheists believe?
I don't know what was you doing before you were born. Do you have any memories of that? I mean, it seems to me it's an obvious answer. The most logical answer is before we were not. After we are, we will not be. That seems like a zero turning into a one and back into a zero. I don't understand the like I think that's
That
an
isn't how math
emotionally
works, Robert.
okay, all right. I'm just saying it's an activation and then it's not activated. It's charged, then it's not charged. There's consciousness, then there's not consciousness. And for some reason, like people can't wrap their head around this. And I feel like it's an emotional reason that they can't wrap their head around this. They want to
Absolutely.
they want to envision it as darkness or, oh, you just see darkness forever. No, did you see darkness forever before you were born? Like that doesn't make any sense.
I think the difference will be the ego part or the emotional part. You know, before you were born or whatever, when you were born, you were not carrying all this weight, emotional weight. But once you getting close to the end and you have a big, humongous baggage of emotional pain or whatever, and people are worried when they're gonna take that to the other side.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't
This
want to
is-
take up all of the conversation. I haven't heard Aaron say hardly anything since he's joined.
Yeah, I've just been listening to what y'all are saying. I didn't feel like
Okay.
my input was wanted or needed or anything.
What do you
I hear you.
think God is? What is God?
Because yeah, I didn't even know the topic. Is this what we're talking about or AI?
Yes,
all
no,
over.
that's the topic. What is God? Very simple. One question.
Yeah, God is pure act, so his essence is being itself.
Well, that says nothing. I mean, I hate to say it, but it doesn't say anything about it. It's like we could say that the essence of Zod is Zod, like is Zodness. Like that doesn't give us anything.
Well, he's just asking me a question, and that's the answer I gave. If you
Okay.
want me to go into more detail, then you would just ask.
Could you try to connect it? I mean,
Connected to what?
to our understanding your definition, because I don't see the connection.
Well, first, that's what I was saying. God is pure act, so God is of intellect and will. God is essentially the essence of who he is, which is it would be divine, of course. So he would be God, omnipresent, omniscient. He would have all power, all knowing, stuff like that.
Do you think that even the name God could be inserted in your explanation?
What do you mean?
One of the things that I'm saying, to everybody in the live stream is that the only thing that I notice about God, universe, life, whatever is out there, is that everything seems to be moving. But I don't see act or any of those words that you mentioned. I don't see it. I don't understand it.
So you don't see act, but you just said everything's acting, correct?
Everything is moving.
So there's already a hint of it. You say you don't see act, but there is act. And all that is we would say all under the blanket of God's will. You have creation, which is temporal, it's moving right now. God eternally willed to have creation. So that's also part of act.
Act, probably you mean it in the way of action.
What do you mean?
When you say act, are you referring to action?
Act, A-C-T.
Act on what?
Act. He is himself act. That's what I'm saying. It is eternal act itself. Like God is eternally willing and eternally knowing.
At least, myself, the problem I have with your definition, which I respect, that's your definition, your point of view, is that I cannot make the connections. I would have to jump into believing that that information that you're saying is accurate. But at least myself, I'm not looking into believing. I'm trying to see for myself here whatever I can grab with my senses and understanding, and try to approach whatever that is out there. I don't know if it's a God, it's a universe, it's entities, aliens, or whatever is out there. I'm trying to understand with my senses and understanding, not by believing.
Interesting. No, I see what you're saying. So I had told you, Javier, not too long ago that I wanted to start like studying, which I have been studying. I've taken a few days off, but I was studying more of natural theology and how God ought to be,
Mhm.
because I still have this belief. I don't know if I think I told Fathom or Robert that if you wanted me to grab Jesus's hand and stick it in your pocket, I couldn't do that. But I believe on paper, with logic, philosophy, and with metaphysics, we could prove how God ought to be and show that there's no contradiction in that. So that's what I've been working on right now, trying to figure that out. So I'm not perfect at it, but I'm trying to recall what I remember studying.
I have no
So,
doubt that you can come up with uh, a logically coherent God, a description of God that's logically coherent. That that doesn't wouldn't surprise me if that's possible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which
Um,
that's the exercise I've been working. I believe it is fully possible, and I believe that if we could connect that logical, let's say, I don't like to say metaphorical, but let's just say logically coherent God, if we could connect that to a revelation and find no contradictions, I think that's kind of the idea that I was trying to work on, but I didn't get to that point. I was just
Uh,
working on how God ought to be.
to be clear, though, I mean, I think there are tons of stories that are written that are entirely fictional, that are internally consistent and have no internal contradictions inside of them. And I mean, even if we take a character that is a satirical character of a godlike comparison, let's say the flying spaghetti monster, we could say, well, these are the things that this flying spaghetti monster are, and we could do things like love and eternal and all these things, and then we can make an external predictive model about, like, okay, this is what that character ought to be. Or we can do ridiculous things like, you know, his flavor is only goodness, all good flavors, all, and still make an internally consistent model of what that thing ought be, and then conclude, yeah, that all of these things are internally consistent, with this external framework. It does nothing to make the thing real, right? It's just created in a complete and encapsulated, consistent model that you could say, yeah, if X is, then this is how X would be.
yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say, Robert.
But what I'm trying to get at is that, do you two believe, without long tangents or explanations, do you two believe, even if you think it's absolutely ridiculous, spaghetti monster, flying steak on the wall, who cares, right? Do you believe that there can be a logically coherent model of God that cannot have contradictions within it?
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't think it can possess the omnis. I think the omnis have to go. Otherwise, it's like you're trying to square a circle. It's impossible.
Which
no.
I would say, could you elaborate? How is that possible?
Well, the
'Cause-
problem of
How
evil.
can you square a circle? You can't.
Yeah, you can't.
No,
You
of
can't.
course not. I'm talking
Right.
about. I want you. Well, I want you to prove that it's not possible. How are you? You're just saying it. I don't
Okay.
hear
Okay.
any
All
proof.
right. All right. No problem. So the problem of evil. If we gonna do the large model, that we'll do just the theoretical model, and then I can give you a case by case example of it in function. So we'll say that the large model is that God is omnibenevolent, that He is all loving and willing to prevent evil. Evil exists. He's all powerful. He has the ability to, and he's all knowing. Then why does evil exist? And the problem that we get when with Christians say, well, free will. God didn't want to impede on free will, and that's why evil existed. But free will could have been limited even in a way that evil didn't exist. Like I mentioned earlier the Adam and Eve issue. So here's one for you. Let me throw it at you. God could have created different first person. Instead of creating Adam, he could have created Joe or Steve or Tom or Bob. And all of these different ones, did all of them eat from the tree? And if we say yes, that every one of them would have eaten from the tree, then by what sense did we have free will? He designed them, and he was always going to design them in a way that they were going to fail. If we say, yes, some of them would not have eaten from the tree, then yeah, we had choice, but that means that God decided to create the one that ate from the tree. That means that God chose this outcome when he could have chose another.
So let's
God
take
is
it.
the actor that made
Yeah.
the evil happen.
If we take it a step at a time, I believe what Thomas Aquinas had said: evil is not an existence; it's a privation. So that's already a problem there. That would be the first thing I would say.
What does that
Secondly,
mean, a privation? It doesn't exist?
it's a lack of something. It's kind of like how there's no such thing as cold; it's just the absence of heat, or there's no such thing as darkness; it's the absence of light. Something like that. So this is seen in our universe. This is how we would say evil is as well. It's the breaking down of good. So to say that God created evil, you would be absolutely right. He couldn't be God. That's not possible. Now, if we get into Adam and Eve, the free will argument, I've had this with Javier multiple times. Javier was right. He said that human free will cannot trump the actual result that would come out. So, like Javier and us did an exercise, you could decide to drink water, not drink water, and you can't change the outcome that God would give you, but you still had the logical possibility to make that choice. So that doesn't eliminate the free will.
Okay.
So, and also when it comes to Adam and Eve, I do not believe that God, okay, you know what? All humans are going to be created to fail and to eat of the apple. I don't believe that that makes any logical coherence. I believe God, in the fullness of what he saw as good for humans, is that they are finite and have the ability to grow spiritually, be sanctified in God, but they have the ability to fail.
Okay.
And they willingly chose to fail. And there could have perhaps been in God's logical mind other possibilities where they did not fail, which would show free will. And also, my last address to your statement: if God is eternal, you're saying that he has not fixed anything. How do you not know that eternally he's already willed and has fixed and is currently fixing all issues of evil? It's just outplaying in a temporal way that we see it linear. So
Yeah,
that would address
I
all your
don't say
points.
that I can know that. I don't say that I can know that. I say, in fact, that I can't know that, and I say that you can't know that either. All we can know is not the potentials of things that will be, but what is here. So what is here is all we can talk about. To go a step further and say, well, you can't know that X won't happen. Well, that's fine. You can't know that Y won't happen. We're in complete agreement that we don't know that. We only know what is present. And these things aren't fixed presently. As to the question that I asked about picking another person, though, you didn't really address, could God have made a different person that did not eat of the fruit? Could he have chose to make a different first person that had a different temperament than Adam? Let's say Joe or Steve or Bob or Ron, one of these, we're just given a name as a placeholder for that characterage. Could he have made someone different and they didn't eat the fruit?
I guess what answer I could give, and I could be wrong because I actually have not searched that. I understand what you're saying. I would say that logically, God could have created many different combinations
Mhm.
of Adam and or Eve, or just Adam or just Eve, however that could have worked. And logically, in God's eternal mind, that is possible. Then it could happen. But I believe that God eternally willed and Adam and Eve to come. But that does not mean that just because he willed them to have free will, that he willed them to screw up. That's a
It
ridiculous claim.
it absolutely means that, because he could have made an outcome that they didn't do it. Like, these are the foundation. Like, everyone else will have to follow in the footsteps of these human beings. So now that he's put this upon them, everyone is going to be judged by that criteria. And if it was possible that another person that he could have made wouldn't have eaten than that, then he chose this outcome. He picked it. You can put it all on Adam if you want, but it didn't have to be Adam there. It could have been Joe there, and Joe wouldn't have done it. Okay, so God picked that outcome. So pushing it onto humans and saying it's their problem, their free will, that doesn't fix the problem at all.
Interesting. So I actually do want to research that because I do understand. The only thing that would have willed within humanity would have been, I would say, for Adam and Eve to exist and for Adam and Eve to have the ability to make decisions. Now, if you're saying God could have changed this or that, first of all, like I said, God's eternal. So it's not like he's switching his mind or making decisions. That wouldn't be God. So it had to have been one eternal act. So I'm kind of an incomplete thought process. I want to look that up.
So does God have free will?
Yeah, that's the real
God,
question.
God is will. You're asking something that's ridiculous. Like, do you have free will? God is will. God is eternally will. Like you're saying, does he have the ability to choose this or that? He is the choice. That's what I'm trying to say.
So he doesn't.
So that's a no. Yeah, that's a
No,
deterministic framework.
he
is what
does.
it is.
No, he does have will because he is will. You
I
could
don't
obtain
think-
something.
I don't think you're going to be able to square your circle on that one.
Or your
Because of-
circle can't be squared either because you're not. We could just go back and forth on that. What's the logical incoherence?
You can't have a God that is
Immutable.
well, not immutable. Well, yeah, immutable, but also
Yeah.
like what he's describing is a timeless God, and you can't have a God that is timeless and make choices.
Yeah.
Unless
It would
you
be-
are eternally choice.
What does that mean?
I didn't know.
So the same way that it means exactly what you know it means. Outside
No,
of
I don't
space
know.
and time.
I can't.
Yes,
I can't know.
outside
I
of
don't know
space
what
and time.
eternal choice means.
Outside
don't-
of space and time, can you make a decision? Or isn't it, even scientists have said that if you were outside of space and time, you would see all in one point? You know that's true.
No, I don't know that's true. But if there's no time, you can't make a choice.
Right. I mean, can you give us your definition of choice? Because you're saying that like his choice is already, it sounds like, but then that's not choice. Can you give us your definition of choice, maybe?
So choice is to choose something, but that's like temporal. I choose to eat an apple or choose to eat an orange.
Mhm.
But if I was outside of space and time, I would have been choosing and currently choosing all at once simultaneously. I would have, it's an eternal act. So it's not like if we're going to straw man God, then we're never going to understand. That right there is ridiculous.
Well, let's be clear.
And I feel like, and I know Robert, Fathom and Robert, you guys are very well studied. You guys know this stuff already. I don't know what you're trying to say.
Well, I don't think it's coherent. Like to say like thought outside of time, like there's no demonstration of that. It's just a statement to say, well, God acting outside of, like even act outside of time, thought outside of time, choice. Like these things to me, they're not coherent. So
Right.
they're just a thing that you're proposing, and I don't think you have any way to demonstrate in any facet that that's even logically coherent, much less demonstrable that thought or consciousness or choice can exist outside of time. Like,
And I never disagree. That's to say that choosing or choice, yes, but let me ask you a question. Let's put our minds together, right? Because I know you and Robert and Javier and Fathom, you guys get a kick out of let's talk about Christianity and God and how it's wrong, right? Let's
not
try to
particularly
steel man
any
it.
of it.
Let's try to steel man it. How
Sure.
could God exist? And let's completely steel man that position. How
so
could
I
God
conceded
make
that
decisions
already,
outside
though,
of
Aaron.
space and time?
Aaron, I
said-
conceded the triomnies. If you drop the triomnies, it can work.
Yeah, and I would agree that God can have choices. He just can't be timeless and have choices. Like those
And
are
it wouldn't- yeah.
contradictions.
Then
Like,
who created this God? Where'd it come from?
But
You're
There's
thinking
no
of like
particular-
you're thinking of like a warlord or something. I'm talking about God
What?
here.
one-
Yes,
one-
if God was not timeless, then there was a time when he wasn't. that wouldn't be God. That would just be like a supreme being
No,
that's just
that
stronger
wouldn't
than
be your
everyone.
conception of God, Aaron. That wouldn't fit inside of your frame. Like there could still be like you're operating under the assumption that your God that made the universe, and let's say that there is a God that made the universe. There's no particular reason to think that that God had to be the first cause. Like that God could be the 134th God, and the first God and all of the previous gods don't need to exist anymore. That is completely logically coherent. That God A created God B, God A no longer needs to exist, and then by time we get to God C created the universe. That is completely possible. You just don't like it in your worldview.
No, it's possible because you have a subjective view of reality, and that's
Tell me why
ridiculous.
it's not
Infinite
possible.
regression. Infinite regression?
Yeah, even the infinite
Isn't it?
regression.
Isn't it the?
Let's go
Isn't
that
it?
far. I
Isn't it?
didn't say infinite
Yeah.
regression. I didn't say infinite regression. We're just saying that the first um, necessary being, that first necessary being, once the next state exists, that necessary being no longer needs to exist. That's all I said. But we can do the infinite
Robert.
regress one too.
So you're saying that a God could have created God A, God B. Did God A could he have been created too? Like
No,
God A minus,
let
God A minus.
God A was not created. Let's say God A just was. Okay, in that he was the necessary being. Once God B exists, God A is not necessary to exist anymore. God B now exists. God A is not necessary. We know this because I had a child, and I can die, and my child still will live. Like that, it's not
Hold
me
on.
existing is not necessary for its state anymore.
Sorry, I'm getting bothered right now.
That's all good.
But all this that you're saying, Aaron, I think it's philosophy, right? This is not something that can be proved.
There's things in philosophy.
Before I go to go check what's going on. No,
Yeah.
Fathom and Robert already said it can be proven, but it's like a flying spaghetti monster. That doesn't mean it's real.
No, I didn't say it could be proven. I said it could be internally consistent.
Yeah.
Not that it could be proven.
Proven logically, my bad.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Logically.
Yeah, that's good enough.
You know, the way I see this, for example, that God is eternal and God is this and that. I mean, as human beings, we have sensors. We have visual and audible sensors. And these sensors feed a machine in our head that then connects to some hydraulics to make a skeleton move. What is God trying to accomplish by installing sensors on these beings? What does this have to do with He being eternal? I mean, you know, to me, in a way, why try to figure out God by coming from the God instead of approaching God from His creation and try to understand His creation?
Yeah.
It seems to me that if I make a program, I'm a programmer, and I make this extremely difficult program, people are trying to find out who I am by throwing guesses out there instead of trying to study what the program does, what is it doing, what it connects to, what is it trying to accomplish, and maybe they have a better idea, at least where to find the programmer. Not who is the programmer, but trying to just guess by what the program does, who the programmer is, seems to me a little bit like a stretch.
I mean, it's all God wants what we want, right? God wants love. We want love. You know, God loves us because we want to be loved. God wants to be loved.
Apart from that, I mean, it's extremely easily and probably unnoticeable that you could inject your beliefs in that philosophical, whatever definition of God you're trying to come up with.
Oh yeah, so Aaron was talking about coming up with a logically coherent God. That is absolutely possible. You can come up with 1,000 logically coherent gods that are all different, have all different properties. So like, there's not just one logically coherent God. There's all you have to do is define this criteria is what makes a thing a god, and then you can add whatever other traits that are logically coherent to them, and now you've got a logically coherent god.
That nobody could prove.
That nobody could prove, right? Because
Yeah,
the necessary traits of a god, at least as far as I'm concerned, I have two requirements for there to be a god, and one is a mind, and the other is non-physical instantiation of non-physical chains, causal chains. So the non-physical part makes it unfalsifiable because we don't
All right,
have a
I'm
way
back.
we don't have a way of falsifying anything that's non-physical, and
So
so you could never demonstrate any logically coherent god.
yeah.
So my to continue, I actually, who was the one that said the God A, God B again? Which one of y'all?
Yeah, that would be me, Robert.
So Robert, how do you define God? Because in that situation, God B, you say, oh, once he's created, God A isn't needed anymore. But we could still prove that God B, his existence is dependent on the creation of himself from God A. So that is inconsistent. Unless you push the goalpost and say
No, no,
God
no.
is not
Is
needing to
God?
be this way.
It was needed, not is needed.
Regardless, it's well, the statement, your existence, is still a dependent statement. My existence is dependent on my parents
Yeah, I know.
having me.
Your existence was dependent. I don't understand why you keep taking things out of time. Like now that your parents had you, do your parents need to exist anymore? No. I mean, it's so obvious, Aaron. That it's right there.
But we're
Like they don't
we're
need to
talking
exist any longer.
because
You
you're
still
pushing the
are.
goalpost, Robert, and you know you're doing it. What is God? That's why I asked you. According to
God's
yours, what is it?
God's made up. I mean, but God's in our head. God's a personification of a thing that we desire as good. We say these things are good, and we like them, and we personify that thing and say that thing is God. It is a benevolent and stabilizing force that we project all of our hopes onto. That's what God is. But
See, before you go, Robert, that was the most ridiculous attempt of being fair. Come on, man.
well,
That's the problem I
you
have.
ask me what I thought God is. I
So,
think God is a worm in the brain that won't let go. That we want things to love us. We want purpose. We want, like, I'll give you the 6 criterias, honestly, of the human conditions that I think make
see,
God's
but
always exist.
that's completely ridiculous. So you're saying if it's just in my head, I could say Javier is God.
You could, but do you believe that? There are people who have genuinely believed certain people are gods, and they're not
Love
playing, they
wins.
mean it.
That's why I said I believe that if somebody was atheist, they'd have to know that was ridiculous. Like at least you, if you were fair, you would say like, oh, there is what we would say God would be if he was,
If
all
he
No,
was.
knowing,
no. See,
all
Aaron,
yeah.
what you misunderstand is, as an atheist, I have no prerequisites for God. Like I don't have this. Well, this isn't what God is. I don't have that like you do. You have a specific
Yeah.
thing. When you think of God, you have a specific thing you think of, and all I have for God is a couple of things that I say. If it doesn't have these, it's not a God. But
Mhm.
anything else is on the table.
Well, I think that's wrong by Robert's definition. Who cares about what you think God isn't? God is
You
what I think it is.
sure. This is the thing. You asked me what I thought a god was. I think God is a meme in the mind. Is what I think all these god things are. As far as, like, if I'm going to define a characteristic that would meet an external criteria for a non-mind dependent god, if that's what you want, like, what would be the definition of a thing that is a not mind dependent but an external of my mind actual thing? Then I can define that. But I don't think that's what everyone's been calling God.
That's very, very fluid. I guess if we allowed one prerequisite, what would make most sense?
Supernatural, that it would have to have abilities beyond our naturalistic abilities. I would generally put that in the category of I'll give you a
Did
primary
you did,
example.
did you hear my two criteria, Robert?
What
What
was
do you
your
think of
criteria? I'm
those?
sorry. No, I
Um,
didn't listen. I'm sorry.
okay, so my two criteria is one, the thing has to have a mind,
Sure.
and the other is it has to have the ability to instantiate causal chains from not by non-physical means.
So will.
Yeah, but that's me. Like you just described me. I have a mind and I could substantiate things. You're by non-causal,
Non-physical causes.
non-physical causes. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even make that distinction because, like, some people call the Anunnaki, however you say Anunnaki, they would classify them as God, but they don't
Yeah.
think that they move things by non-physical means. But
And-
they've been
and-
categorized as gods, you know.
Okay, and that's fine. They can if they're talking to me. This is my criteria is for my purposes.
Sure,
If
sure.
I'm talking to you and you say you believe this thing exists and therefore you're a theist, and I say, well, if it doesn't have these two things, I'm not calling myself a theist.
What about a programmer then? If we are in an AI and the character that's programming is programming by code, it's I won't say it's not your plateau, but it's the underwritings of your plateau. Would you call that thing a god?
If so, I would say I would say probably a programmer would qualify as a god if they have the ability to change the world
Right.
through without using the rules of the world.
The rules of the world, but the underlining rules that are not in our physical representation.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, fair. All right, that's a fair definition.
Makes a lot more sense than saying a worm or a meme.
No, I don't think that we have been able to demonstrate any of those things exist. So I think that gods arise not because of actual physical external things, but they arise because of internal deficiencies inside of us. I'll give you the 6 if you want to know the 6 that I generally think this is why gods exist.
Rather than knowing why they exist, I don't know. You're gonna say deficient, lack of something, emotional trauma. I think that's all pushover stuff. I get it. Yeah, it makes sense or whatever.
Well,
But-
yeah, I think the fear of death is the largest motivator. I don't think there's ever been a religion ever built that didn't address it. Like every religion, in some way, you don't truly have to die. You go to heaven, you go to Valhalla, you go to Shangri-La or some other plateau or a spiritual plane. Or
So you would respect annihilationists
Annihilationists? What does that mean?
That's
to
the
be wiped
Christians who
from
believe-
existence.
That's the Christians that think that when you get thrown in the lake of fire,
You
your
just
soul gets
aren't
burned.
anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that people are afraid of death. It's not that I respect one position or the other. I think it's obvious that people are afraid of death.
I would say
What about
that even
the prospect of life?
your
rather
word, your
than
sentence
fear
started in the
of
middle
death?
of mine, by the way, Aaron. I would say that to your thing about annihilationism, that's still the fear of life or death, because that's the bad thing. That's not what everyone does. That's the thing that the bad people get, and the good people get to live forever. So that's still addressing the fear of death, like Robert was saying.
Yeah, people don't want to die. They're just afraid of it. And I
Not,
think
I mean, not
religion-
everybody, right?
Well, yeah, I agree. I think that it's a very internal thing. It's why we don't walk out in the middle of traffic. I think it's a self-preservation. I don't think these negative emotions are a bad thing. Like, I categorize the group of negative emotions and positive emotions pull you towards them. Negative emotions push you away from them. But negative emotions are doing heavy lifting too. Like, he mentioned anger, fear. Like, everybody looks at these emotions and they're like, oh, they're bad. But they're doing their part in preserving us and keeping us alive as well. The problem is that when they're so hungry with fear that they're paralyzed by them, they make things up that says, "Oh, I don't have to do that. I don't have to face death." You know, and then the wellspring of religions come forward.
If you allow me for a moment, I don't want to deviate from the conversation, but Aaron, what do you think is God's motivation for creation?
For creation, what would I say his motivation for creation would be? That's a good question. I would say to partake and reflect in the eternal willing of good. So to
Him.
eternally to partake in God and to be full of goodness and will it for one another or something like that, maybe. So like that would be the main purpose. If you want to call it worship God, if you want to call it love your neighbor, if you want to call it um, full love for your partner or something like that, it
But
could all be under that umbrella.
don't you think that that would put God in a place that he's lacking something and then he wants to create something to fill that gap?
No, there's no lack. Is God does
So
not need anything.
but you said that he wants to, apparently, from what I understand, he wants to experience something.
Let me rephrase it because what you're saying is analogical. So I mean, we could only relate to it like through human words, like oh, God would want this or God would want that. But God's not changing his mind. Oh, I want this today and I want this tomorrow. It's not like that. It's more like God could still have will for his creatures eternally that came out in temporal time. That does not mean necessity. God does not need anything. That would not be, in my opinion, God at least.
So there will be no motivation for God to do anything.
Well, God doesn't get motivated. He's not like a human where 1 minute you're not and 1 minute you are. There's
So
no
what?
emotions in God.
So trying to understand this and trying to understand your perspective, God went from no creation to creation. Something changed.
I would argue the only change is the creation itself. So right now, from the beginning of time of eternity to the end of eternity, God has always willed creation. It's outplaying now, though. That's what I'm saying. So, Javier, you have always been in God's mind. It's just you did not come out until the year you were born. So, the only changes is creation itself, the temporal act, but God eternally willed for that to happen.
So he willed creation.
Eternally, yes. He has always desired creation to happen at I think it's T1. That's the marker, like for time to start.
So at what moment in eternity he decided to will creation?
There was no
Zero.
moment. He was always deciding it. It was like, and like I said, it's analogical. I don't know if deciding is the right word. I would just say willed it eternally.
So it seems to me, you know, probably my lack of understanding because my human mind. But it seems to me that at one point in eternity, something had to change, something at some level. Because if everything was a constant, then even he would not will his creation.
What do you mean?
There has to be a change of
Something,
state from T0 to
something
T1.
had to, yes, something have to change. Because I
I
have, I
would
have, I
say,
have
yeah.
not been in creation. I have not participated in creation for eternity. This is only in the mind of God. So at one moment I have to come to reality. Let's say for reality, something had to change.
I would say that like I said, the actual change would be coming from the created side of things. So like God eternally willed time, God eternally willed logic. Well, God is logic. God eternally willed humanity, but God also eternally willed for these to outfold within time and within space and logic.
So
So we changed, not God.
you're saying that God did not participate in me coming into reality at any
Yes, through
level,
his
anyway?
existence, his existence.
That part, I don't understand that part. It seems to me that what you're saying is that I came to reality because I decided to.
No, I'm saying because a chain of events that happened, if you want to call it, evolution, if you want to call it your parents, if you want to call it when was
And the initial change that took place was that
one
started
second. Can
everything.
you hear me? I'm gonna take a call real quick. I don't know if you can hear me, but I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right. All right, Aaron. Yeah, I'm trying to understand that part. It seems to me what Aaron is saying is that God has not influenced in any way creation, something that exists in his mind, and then we did someone else that was not God, that made it come into reality. That spark that created everything, created the universe. Apparently, God was not part of it. I'm trying to understand. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what he's saying either.
It depends on what model he's reading. Honestly, none of this is from the Bible. Not a single drop of this is from the Bible. Like we have what's his name? William Lane Craig, that has different models. Like he might say that God and time were coming into existence simultaneously to try to explain things. And what's God Logic has his own potentiality argument. All these different people. And what happens is apologetics wind up copying one of their models because there's none of this you can copy from the Bible. Like it's just not there.
You're
So-
saying that modern understanding of time, space time, and
Right.
quantum fields, none of that's in the Bible?
Not a single thing about God knowing things outside of time none of that. Like none of that's biblical. I mean, we get things like Psalms that say that he knew us in the mother's womb, or that he stitched us together in the mother's womb. We get Jeremiah that says that he known us in our mother womb, or we get maybe something in Hebrews that says that nothing escapes from God's sight. But it's all things that are existing in this time and are playing out. It's not to say that God knows all the things that will happen. There's not even a text for that. So it's just all made up, like modern ideology with no biblical support, and they try to pull little strings out of the Bible to support and prop up these knowledgeable God, that he knows everything. It's just not, it's not even in the text.
And besides,
So I had.
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Phantom. Go ahead.
Oh, it's off topic. So I was just trying to make banter. But if you have something on topic, let's stick
Yeah, I
with
was gonna say that. I mean, I'm trying to follow along to what Aaron is saying, and I allow him to talk, but I don't connect the dots. I don't connect the dots. It seems to me at what moment he jumps from one point to another, and there's a gap that it cannot be explained. Hey, Aaron, you there?
I think he stepped away. I think late Isaiah, had one of the best verses that I've ever heard used on this subject, and it's something about knowing the end from the beginning.
Hersey just put it in the chat. It says declaring the end from the beginning and from ancient times things not.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Isaiah 46:10. I knew that was going to come up. Good man. So
Hersey's a woman, by the way.
Oh, well, woman, whatever. Yeah, this is the best one that's there, but it's still not like any of this model of God is outside of time, or anything like this. It's suggesting that God knows the end, right?
Brente just wrote that for sure God was not outside of time in the Hebrew conception of God.
Right.
Yeah. So, pivoting a little bit, but still talking about infinite regresses, I came up with, it's more of a joke argument really, but I came up with something today. So, in order to use words, they have to have definitions, right? And definitions are created of words. So when God spoke, "Let there be light," he had to define what those words mean.
Hilarious.
And in order to do that, he had to define those words that were in those definitions.
Yes.
So
it's genius. It's so genius, man. I'm sorry.
Well, you see, I guess I take it you see where I'm going with that.
Yes, absolutely. This is good stuff. No, this is good stuff. But on Tangelo, and he's not the first one to do it. Others argue, well, speaking is just a representation of his will going forward. Like the text that says his will not, it will go forward and it will not return
Oh
to him
yeah,
void.
yeah.
Right.
Had
This
no-
it's this. In that concept, it uses the Hebrew word. I think it uses the Hebrew word that it will accomplish wherewith it was sent, not the logos Greek word in this context. But anyway, so the ideal is that his will is going forward, and it's just being represented as a placeholder of word.
Yeah, yeah. It was not a serious.
Yeah,
argument.
yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, there we go. I can throw this out there sometime.
It's weird because like when you really get down to the brass tacks of Exodus, most people will say, okay, yeah, something has to be allegorical. Like even those that hold the really strong line of no, this was all literal. There was a literal boat. And they go as far as saying hippos were staying wet because they had the moon pool right in the ark, because the hippos had to stay wet, right? Um, Even if they go that far, they still at some point they'll have to break down and say, oh well, that had to be allegorical, just because otherwise you can begin to run into problems like this with the word. You run into problems, so that has to be allegorical.
My answer.
What's that?
God gave Noah the plans to make cryogenic pods. And so they just put all the animals to sleep for a year, woke them up when they were done, and there you go.
Well, did you hear the one that I had on my channel the other day? Kurt mentioned somebody else was in a serious debate and said that the Shroud of Torah, that why couldn't God have just, when Jesus died and he walked out of the tomb, that the Shroud of Torah moved to the 1300s, that it just jumped right to the 1300s where the shroud sewed up. There's nothing outside it. Right. God could have absolutely done that.
That is possible.
But it's a way of fixing, like there's nothing you can't fix if you sprinkle a little miracle on it.
Yeah, that's why I think that coming with this philosophical definitions of God, and you can run into many problems. Starting with your philosopher's feelings.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, the philosophy, especially when you get outside of what can be verified. Like I think logic it does really good when you stick with what can be verified. So you use logic to say, hey, where should I look? And then you go look and you verify that your logic is correct. But once you get outside of what can be verified, it just depends on where you start at. And logic can definitely just keep you can tell you that this is consistent with these presuppositions, but it cannot tell you that the presuppositions are wrong
or right.
Yeah.
But
I think, go ahead.
Yeah, we get this with different religions all the time, that they have a particular feeling that they think is the case. I'll give you a primary example. The church Mormons used to not believe that people that were black could enter into heaven. They had to die, be reincarnated as a white man and all. And they can find some different texts out of the Bible that they think could support this once upon a time. But we even have people that don't think that black people and white people should intermingle, right? They'll use texts like the Bible says to be not unevenly yoked, right? But it's comparing it to being yoked with an animal of a different kind or a different power or whatnot, because that they'll go astray. So they already have their ideas, they already have their conceptions, and they just go to the Bible to look for something to reinforce the belief that they already have. So if you already have the Trinity or whatever external framework that you already have there, just go to the Bible and look for verses that you think can support and prop up what you've already come to the text with and forced them into the text.
I see that a lot with Calvinism versus what is it? Arminianism is the other one, whatever it is. Like they both sides have their verses, and they both will bring up their verses, and it's like, I don't know what to tell you. those are all the verses in your book.
Yeah.
You guys figure that one out.
Yeah, I'll sort that out. But this is why we've had so many divisions of different religions in the past.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
even the what's the three pillars that the Catholics use as opposed to the Scripture alone, the sola scriptura. They have it's not just Scripture, but it's tradition, it's the Church Fathers, and it's Scripture. So they have their
Yeah.
three pillars, and like they have to have an authority, and they'll show you Scripture and everything else that they think supports. No, there has to be an authority here on earth, and they'll back that. And Protestants will be like, no way that's what that means. Okay,
Mhm.
you came to it with what you wanted it to mean. You're going to read into it what you want to mean.
Yeah.
All right, I'm back.
One of the things that I mean, this might sound ridiculous, but I mean, we have to contemplate it also and analyze it. So God is eternal. He's outside of time. He's and timeless. And he decides to make creation or will it, or I don't know, I still don't understand that part, and create us as human beings. I think us in relationship to God, probably what we are the size of an atom, probably smaller in relationship to the size of God. I don't know. So he decides to make this apparently looks like robot or humanoids and put sensors on this robot or humanoids or humans or whatever, visual sensors, audible sensors, touch sensors, in order to what seems to me to collect information and then send this information again to a brain. And he decides to put a little bit of himself into these human beings that are the size of an atom, probably smaller compared to God, in order for us to experience God's love when he's outside of time.
I don't know.
I mean, I was trying to hold my laugh, but I mean,
I thought it was pretty interesting. So
yeah,
I
but
got a few.
go
Yeah,
ahead, go ahead,
go ahead.
go ahead. No,
I
go
have a
ahead.
few questions for Fathom and Robert because y'all are like y'all are atheists.
Okay.
So why is it that I see a lot of atheists? God, no, ridiculous, horrible, Sky Daddy. But when y'all mention when someone mentions simulation, y'all are so fascinated and interested in it. Not everybody universally, but like, isn't that kind of just God, just like somebody else outside?
If you don't mind, one of you, I think it was Phantom or Robert, mentioned we were talking about this at the beginning. You were not connected. He would say that he didn't like the simulation.
Yeah, I don't buy it. But I mean, I don't mind entertaining all of these things, Aaron. I don't mind entertaining them as possible things, as long as there's not a contradiction. I don't think we have an inference of one, so I don't think we have any basis to believe it. We don't have a foundation on which to believe it's the case.
Right. And that's where I am too. Like, to me, anything that is unfalsifiable is indistinguishable from imagination.
Yeah.
And simulation theory is unfalsifiable. So it might as well be imagination for me.
Right.
So,
is it
yeah.
logically possible? Sure, I guess it's possible.
We can't know.
But yeah, exactly.
And then another question: do y'all believe if something's logical, it could exist? Not saying that it does, but it could.
There's a difference between logically coherent with the things that we know in reality and just being internally logically consistent inside of a model.
So what does that answer my question?
What's your question one more time?
If something's logical, could it exist? I'm not saying it will or it has.
Yes and
I'm just
no.
saying could it?
Yes and no. If it's logical, internally consistent inside of its framework, it's still possible that it couldn't exist. It could exist inside of that framework, but it can't exist inside of the framework of the things that we know, right? So is it if there's another possibility where physics works differently, is it possible for there to be a spherical cube, right? I'm not going to say it's impossible, but in the reality of that we know and how physics work and how these descriptions work, no, it's not possible. So
Is that what you call axioms?
Internally consistent is what I just say. Internally consistent. So inside of the Spider-Man comics, for example, you can have a story that is entirely internally consistent. Let's say that Spider-Man's wire, for example, can hold 3,000 pounds of force, right? That its tensile strength is like 3,000 pounds of this tiny little bitty strand, and he can swing from it and do all these different things. And let's say we know what his motor power is in each muscular strand. We know what his force is. Okay, if that's stipulated, then when he grabs that car that gets thrown at him and he can flip it, yes, everything's internally consistent. But when we look in our framework and how we know muscles work, and we know how much oxygen it burns and how much, like, we know that those things wouldn't work, and we know that we don't have tensile things in our framework that could be that strong and be that thin and still have that power. So it's internally consistent if those things, if X, Y, and Z that it's stating is the case are true, then it's internally consistent. But we can't validate those things inside of our reality because we don't have inferences of them.
Interesting. So
I would agree with that. Like there's a difference between logically possible and metaphysically possible. And metaphysically possible means that, like, with the metaphysics that are actually true, it's still possible. And that's not necessarily logically possible. Logically possible just means there's no contradictions.
So
yes. And then I have another question, if you don't mind, Javier, or you could
Go
go.
ahead.
That's up to you.
Go ahead.
So not all atheists, but why does it seem to me a lot of y'all are, rather than atheists, like anti-theists? Like, why do I always get a negative view? Like, I personally think that, like, being atheist, I could understand it. I don't think y'all are gross or dirty. I actually think atheism views could help people to look at reality more objectively, rather than just being like, it's all mystery and woo-wah. Like, no, sometimes you need to start from nothing and look at objective. And I love that stuff.
Yeah.
But what is up with that?
The anti-theistic sentiment is going to be different for different people. But I'll let you go first.
I think a lot of it comes from religious trauma. Like, a lot of atheists today used to be Christians, and they feel hurt and harmed by their Christian, what they view as Christian indoctrination. And so they are very angry about that. And this isn't all anti-theist too, because there's other atheists that are anti-theist, and they're anti-theist because not because of their direct harm, but because they see that harm in other people. Like if I look at you and I say, oh man, this thing crippled your critical thinking and took significant portions of your life away from you, like that, I could get angry for that reason too. But I also don't, I mean, that's definitely not all atheists. I don't feel that way myself. And I don't think Robert does either.
No, not generally. I think there's some bad things that are going on, but only to the degree that those things are willing to push into school systems and, like, try to, dare I say, take advantage of young and credulous minds, or that they're willing to try to take captive political institutions. If they're not trying to do these things, in large part, I could leave religion alone. I don't have a problem with it. The problem that I have, and I've mentioned this to fandom, I left this game. Like, I've been an atheist for over 20 years now, and I haven't been on this scene in probably 17 years. I wasn't interested in talking about it, but I saw the rise of white nationalism. I saw the rise of Christian nationalism under with a changed name, so to speak. And what they've done is they're pushing themselves into politics. They want only heavily fundamentalist Christians. They want to try to push creationism teaching into school systems, into court systems. And in addition to that, my little girl, which is in a public school, the teacher took the hands of all the children and led them all in a prayer. So they're trying to push this into public school systems until they get their hands slapped and say, hey, these are not your children. You're only teaching them. You don't get to indoctrinate them. And then they'll stop. But they feel like they have a license to do this because it's in the name of Jesus. And I think this is taking advantage of young, incredulous minds, and I think it's problematic.
Yeah, I actually get worried a lot of times when God sneaks into curriculum. I'm Christian. I love the concept of private schools, but I do believe that there's a certain point where you have to not mix everything. Because, like, once you start having like 10 commandments and you start having
Yeah.
creation, especially like 6,000 years, which I don't believe that. I'm open completely to science, working with faith and reason, but
Mm.
like that causes a lot of problems, and I could totally understand that. But I just get a feel of like I respect that. I don't believe that we can't coexist. I don't think we need to go and grab atheists and spray them with water bottles. But I also don't think that we should be saying every religious trauma, therefore religion's all bad, meme, sky daddy, all that crap. I also think it's very ignorant. And I'm hoping you guys aren't part of that group.
Uh, let, let,
I've never used the term sky daddy myself.
Or at
I
least
don't think
meme,
so.
which is a bit ridiculous.
Aaron, if you don't mind asking you a question, do you know who Ray Comfort is?
Ray Comfort?
Yeah.
Ray Comfort.
Ray Comfort. No, I don't.
Wow.
Okay, I'm surprised.
Hey, you're lucky.
You're lucky.
Well, Ray Comfort is a guy that runs a business, a God business, and sells salvation to the people, in my point of view. But he's a very strong Christian, and he has his channel called Living Waters. Probably you heard of it. But he says that he always says the same thing, that is a scientifically impossibility to think that the universe created itself. And the most logical explanation is that there's a creator. Do you agree with that?
I mean, so far there's nothing wrong with that, but there's got to be a catch somewhere. Like you guys
He
are,
agrees-
On
he's
my
Christian and he
question,
agrees with
or
you.
yeah, on my question, or what Ray Comfort is
because
saying?
to know who Ray Comfort is and what he says. Because like what you said sounds like it makes sense, but like I'm looking this guy up and he's evangelist. I don't know if he's making money or if he's scamming people. I don't know what's wrong with this guy. So
Yeah, if that was his only thing, I think we could all live with it. Ray Comfort has went so much farther than that to suggest that bananas are intelligently designed by God, that they fit our hands so perfectly. And he said all of this. This was years back. He didn't even understand like the history of the cultivation of bananas, right? And how they didn't originally have that shape to start with, and that they had internal seeds in them, and that we cultivated them and growed them out. But he makes these statements like, no, God designed the banana exactly like it is, and we it has its own peel on it like a piece of candy, you know.
yeah, what's interesting, I never was a fan of the creationist idea. I never was a fan of T-evangelicals or evangelicalism. I always find it to be intellectually odd or even dangerous at times when it gets really, really deep into like dispensational Zionism. I think that has hurt a lot of people. Like you said, Christian nationalism can actually cause a lot of problems.
This
So
this
I don't know if that
explanation
guy does that stuff, but
He does.
this explanation that you gave about who do you think God is. I mean, did you come up with that definition yourself, or you put together stuff that you have learned from God, or where did you
so
get this definition from?
so a lot of it is reading the Bible front to back, and a lot of it is taking a step back from Revelation and looking to natural theology, researching what the Catholic Church teaches, philosophers teach, and that like I don't like to just piggyback somebody. I like to swirl it around in my head and stuff like that. Or like I told you, I actually was really interested um, in the fact of how Robert and Fathom talk, because for a long time, Robert and Fathom, it was basically an echo chamber for us. We didn't have representation. It was Javier versus everybody else. So like it's
Mhm.
cool that you guys are here because we actually could have some people to throw back on, like to the ideas and all that. But I also created a panel on AI. I created a panel. I was like, hey, let's put a logician, let's put a metaphysics, let's put all kinds of logical people. I don't want any biases of God, remove them. Let's talk about how God ought to be, logically consistent, stuff like that. So
Uh,
I had asked all kinds of different questions. And I tried very hard. I said, do not involve Christianity. I don't want any revelation. I just want to see through logic how it would work. So
uh,
that's kind of what I've been at right now.
Give
How
me a
old are you,
chance.
Aaron?
Hold on, guys. Kozak,
$23.
if you're trying to connect to the Discord, just hang in there for a moment so I can allow you in the server. I noticed that you connected and disconnected because I have to give you rights to connect to the server in case you want to connect again.
Yeah, because Robert was playing copyright.
Oh, was it?
No, we're joking.
He
It's a
almost
joke.
got
Push to
Fathom,
talk.
I think Fathom understands the joke better. I should have used him.
So,
Yeah.
one of the things that I noticed in your explanation, Aaron, that you were giving about God, you said that He's outside time, and you also said that you're getting your definition from different, the Bible, some other stuff that you mentioned, religion, and remember the third one. But none of this stuff talk about God being outside of time.
Well, that's why I also mentioned that we go to logic, right? So, like, I'm also studying the terms. They probably understand it, like a divine accommodation, anthropomorphism, anthropophism, trying to learn how uh, God relates through scriptures to man, but also being able to take a step back from the scriptures and using just logic. So then you go to like Aquinas, and then you go to philosophers, even the Greek philosophers that before Christ even came, stuff like that. And like
Don't
I
you
said, I made an AI panel trying to um, refer different ideas and see how God ought to be, what's logical and not.
don't you think that you have more chance, more probability of coming with a wrong conclusion basing your information from external sources? What you read on the Bible, what you heard someone say, some other people's conclusions, and
Yeah, that wouldn't make
and and
sense.
and and also you could be injecting your emotions into these final conclusions probably without you even noticing it.
So I to answer your question, my nature's been a little different than that. I very much hate being the person that believes something that is not true. Like I don't like subjective beliefs. I try very hard to like be scientific method mindset. Like if I look something up, I have to see multiple resources and sources, and then I gotta dig deep into it. I don't like, oh, it says you God is love, and okay, yeah, dude, that's pretty sick. No, I like to know why. What does it have to do with love? How could God even love if he's outside of time? How could God have emotions? Why would he care about me? That type of stuff. I
So
have a very skeptical mindset when I'm looking stuff up. Like even when I joined the church or looked into the Bible, I said, okay, what are the worst possible questions I could ask? Let me see if this could stand being asked these questions.
you say that, but something, to me, something doesn't sound right. I'm gonna ask you. It's not a tricky question, but it's a silly question. Which one of these two that I'm gonna mention to you is a belief and something that you know? God is eternal. Us human beings have visual sensors. Which one is a belief and which one do you know?
I would say that we know humans have visual sensors as far as our presumption that that's how we view reality. Maybe we're, I don't know, receiving light a certain way, or maybe we're a dog in a dream of something. I don't know. But as far as we could assume we're humans that see things if we're not blind,
So
that's something that I can say I know. But for God, the only thing that I could say for certain is that I know how he should be, but that could go to belief. Yeah, I mean, I can't prove it to you right now. Like
so
grab God and show you.
so you know that our visual sensors can only see a range of light.
Yeah, sure.
So why would you go to the other side of the spectrum that is extremely unknown to try to come up with your conclusion and apparently bypassing things that you know?
Because I believe, I remember there was a really cool experiment where it was like showing how you stick a prism with clear light and it puts out colors. And some smart guy did a formula. I don't know if it was Isaac Newton or someone else,
Yeah. It was.
that there's actually colors outside of this, which it would be infrared. So I find life interesting. There's things that exist or could exist that we don't see. I don't have to see it. Like I can't see we could write a formula, but I can't see gravity, but I know it's there. It's pretty interesting to me. Like we're not even going to morals, just like logical stuff that I think is outside of just my eyes. I
So,
find, to be honest, before you go, Javier, I've always thought that it's very weird and ignorant people that are like, I don't believe it till I see it. Like I can't take any word or I can't take any like thing that someone says. Like I don't really like it, but I understand it. If you're trying to prove something, you should be able to do your best to show it.
what do you think that God limited our visual sensor to a certain range of light?
Well, that would be because it's in our nature. We're finite creatures that are limited. It's just who we are.
So, where does God play a role in our visual sensors limitations?
Well, he would have willed finite creatures to be a specific way. Now, I don't know if once we're fully sanctified, if we're going to have visual abilities beyond what we know. But as far as I know and what we see, that's what God wanted. And it's not a bad thing, you know. I don't I don't think it's bad that you can't see certain things. It's just what it is.
What do you think that God possibly doesn't or didn't want us to see infrared light, or I don't know, ultralight, or some other light that we are not able to see?
I don't know if there's something dangerous to it or health bothering or maybe a stimulation of the mind. I don't know. Maybe there's certain things that is there to be placed for us to look into it. I couldn't answer that without really thinking about it. It's a good question.
Do you think that there's more chance to have wrong your conclusion based on information that you have absolutely no idea or cannot test than being wrong about stuff that you know and understand, like a visual sensors for humanity?
So yeah, I agree. So I think that have y'all ever watched Endgame? Like Avengers Endgame, anybody?
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah,
like
it's been a
I
while.
feel like when Doctor Strange was like, there's one possibility out of all these billions and billions. I feel like it's kind of like that. Like for God to be real, it is such a thin line to walk on that has to cross so many X's that it should be impossible and should be wrong. And it's like a math equation. Like you mess up one step of a very long green board uh, or whiteboard math explanation, and it's completely wrong. It's like it has to have so many steps just to even get it correct, something like
It
that.
it
So
seems
it's very
to
high chance that it's a very high chance you're more likely to be wrong.
it seems to me that most people that believe that God is real, they are trying to achieve the goal of explaining God because the emotionality that is attached to the God. What I mean by that is what is emotional about understanding visual sensors in human beings and the range of light that we can see, and try to understand God that way versus understanding God's love.
Yeah, through an emotional way. Einstein made this argument in a lesser degree, but he definitely did. Like his idea was, if we were going to know God, like what better way to know him through the sciences, you know?
Well,
And I don't think that I believe he believed in this Spinoza kind of God, almost a pantheistic, like the universe is some sense of divine. But
You know, I was gonna say I don't believe in like pantheism or everything is God, but I like to say of God. And I mean essentially it all ties back to one divine essence. So I'm kind of like I find it interesting when people are like, "Oh, everything is God." I'm like, It's kinda. I mean, I'm not gonna go worship Javier, but Javier is of the eternal will of God, so he was always there, just temporally coming out now.
yeah,
But
Hey, I wanted
I
to
mean,
try to clear something up with you, if you don't mind, because I feel
Uh,
I didn't know that we had the age disparities that
uh,
we did. And whenever I
oh,
used meme earlier, I'm sorry, one second, Javier. I think I offended him, and I wanted to fix this. There's an older understanding of the word meme and a newer understanding. I think the younger people think of meme as something different than some of us our older people do, because the word came from Richard Dawkins. Like made the word up. He first introduced it, and he used the Greek terminology that just means to mimic or copy, and it's like a meme in the mind that something is an ideal is replicated, and you can't get it out, and it's constantly there in your mind. Not some newer version of the word meme.
yeah, because I'm
uh,
from the young edgy
I
generation
figured
where
it. I
a
realized it
meme
as
is like the troll face or like some dumb video or something like that.
yeah, yeah.
So I
uh,
appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah.
guys, give me just one moment.
Well,
Some of the chats, just to mention some of the chats. Hersey 98, thank you so much for the Yules, for the present. Thank you so much. I thought you hate my guts, so like, yeah, why are you giving me jewels? But thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. And Cryptoly, yeah, this is definitely a live stream. And was the other person was asking? I missed. I give the message. I think it was Harry D. If I am that rude, I do not see the correlation of what is God. And Tekken Fan is the law of large numbers is why multiple possibilities exist. This is definitely
Um,
a live stream, guys. So we're doing a live stream right now. Some people are thinking that
yeah.
this is recorded.
You know what's one thing that I love about you too, Fathom and Robert? I feel like atheists are actually more useful than people think. Like I'm not talking about the anti-theists or like talking about trauma and so I don't think that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like I like to use y'all's language and like objective view and things and how things should be. I find it really interesting. I really do believe that it's something that can be used. Like is pretty cool to me.
Hmm.
Like
One
I feel like a lot of my brain and the way that I operate is more atheistic style than a lot of Christians, specifically like maybe the New Age Christians, like that are like evangelical or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if
you
that makes
know,
sense at all.
A
you
little bit.
know, Aaron, one thing that I don't know if you have noticed a pattern, but I have noticed a pattern, especially now that I'm doing these live streams, that most believers wants to approach God from the end, which is God, which it seems to me that is not an honest way to understand God, because it's very easy to approach God as a definition, like God is love, God is eternal, God is outside time, saying all these things because of how you feel when you come up with these conclusions or definitions. But I think it will be more sincere to approach God with things that you really understand and know, which is extremely far away from God. There's no emotional benefits from that.
Like what? What could we start with that you're talking
For
about?
example, I'm not gonna speak for atheists, but it seems to me that atheists could, just for a good feeling and feel love, they can jump and bypass all this understanding, try to get to God and just get to the goodies.
Yeah.
God is love, God is beautiful, God is my rock, my whatever, and just get to the feel good without really understanding the hell God is.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why I liked to ask Robert, but Robert gave me an answer I didn't find sufficient.
oh,
Fathom gave me a more
hey,
sufficient answer. It was like
hey,
supernatural.
real,
We could start out with a
real,
presumption.
real quick, Clearwater. It looks like someone might be trying to log in, but they're on the horizontal, and you never posted the link to the horizontal chat.
Ah.
Yes, I can see the link on both. It's on the pin message right now.
Ah.
There's the link
I'm
right there.
there's oh okay, yeah, never mind, I missed it. It is pinned.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can just get into the Discord and join the conversation about what is God. More
Yeah.
than welcome. Go ahead.
My problem is I'm interested in, like, if we say what is fairies, like, and then if I gave you a definition that's a classical definition, I could give you kind of a classical definition of what is fairies, but it doesn't. I mean, I don't think they're real. I think it's more useful to address like why are people interested in and pushing forward fairies, right? That seems to be more interesting as to what's the phenomena that people are claiming there are fairies. Why are they doing it? It seems to do more than to say, well, what a fairy is, and then give you this descriptor of a fairy that I don't think is real.
Yeah. Can I ask a few questions to y'all
Sure.
Yeah.
to learn a little more about how y'all view like theism and stuff like that? If you two passed away, and just stay within the hypotheticals, we're presupposing all this and that, right? Grant me this for a second. If you guys passed away and you really were in front of God, and the Christian God was true, let's just say Catholicism was true, would you rather be in hell than leave a God like that?
On the hill, I mean.
So for myself, I have trouble seeing how I could exist in heaven. And what I mean by that is, when I think about heaven, it's supposed to be a place where I'm eternally happy. For eternity, I'm happy. And when I think about that, I don't think I could ever, the person that I am now could never be happy and know that there are people in hell. So if there is a hell and there are people in hell for eternity, I could not be happy in heaven, which means that I could not, it's not me that exists in heaven. It's somebody else. It's something else that's not me.
You're jumping ahead of the identity problem. I know where you're coming from, but I don't think you're giving it all the parts.
Well, I know I'm just giving you my thoughts on it.
Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about. If that's a known thing, this is
It
just
is
how
a
I
known
thought through
thing. It is a
This is just
known
how-
thing.
This is just how I thought about it. Like, so I don't know how I could exist in heaven. And also, man, I don't know if you know how long eternity is, but I know that I would be bored out of my skull long before eternity's done. And so, like, if you were to ask me what kind of if I had to pick an afterlife, what kind of afterlife would I prefer? My preferred afterlife is eternal volitional existence, and that means that at any point in time, I can say, you know what, I'm done existing, and I just cease to exist.
Yeah. So I appreciate y'all's answers, but it wasn't the
Well-
answer to the question.
Well, yes, if I'd rather be in
Catholic
heaven or
God.
not.
We still
No,
don't
not
have
heaven.
definitions
I'm
of
saying-
heaven or hell.
No, well, I already gave you a presumption that if we say the Christian Catholic God, so
Okay,
we
so
already have a very
our-
well defined. We
Oh.
already have that well defined.
Okay,
Would-
okay.
would- Would you let's, like I said before, just grant me it for a second, man. Y'all are smart as hell. Damn it! Like I can't ever get y'all to just say something
We
definite.
don't know.
Y'all got to
what-
be like,
Well, we don't.
okay,
Hey, we
Robert,
don't
I
know
get it.
the Catholic
Rob-
ideal of hell, though. We don't understand what its
yes, but
conception is.
it's eternal separation from God, and there's torment. Yes, eternal. Like we cannot say
Okay.
an answer without working around. Thank you. Okay, look, if you died and you realized that God is true, would you want to be with that God, or would you rather be separated from that God in hell?
But
Like knowing that God, knowing that
Uh,
Christian God's true and everything that you guys believe is wrong, would you even want to worship that God?
Aaron, I would like, I don't know, you're not asking me this question, but one thing that I notice your question points to is
Dichotomy.
that at the end of whatever you deal with God, optimally is an emotion. And that seems to me that we're not talking about a God. So your question that you're pointing doesn't sound to me that you're referring exactly about a God, because when you go to heaven, optimally, you're gonna feel good. If you go to hell,
Yeah.
you're gonna feel bad optimally. It's not the
I just wanted to-
physicality.
yeah.
It's not the physicality of being in heaven. It's how you're gonna feel in heaven. So It seems to me
Yeah.
that a God that offers emotional rewards, we're not talking about a God.
All right, but
That's from
I'll entertain it though. I'll entertain it if you don't mind, and we can get back to that. I'll tell you. Then in that case, I would just definitionally choose heaven. I mean, you're giving me a dichotomy basically of all of the good emotional stuff or all the bad emotional stuff, and like you're just couching it in heaven and hell, which is being couched out as eternal happiness is kind of how we're defining heaven, and eternal pain and suffering is how we're defining hell. And like everyone will say, okay, I'll take eternal happiness. Okay.
You'd be surprised. I've met loads of atheists that said, I'd rather go to hell because I'm not going to ever believe or give worship to a God like that. That's why I'm asking y'all if y'all believe that. Like to get to, that's why I said, would you even want to
I'm
worship and be with this God?
I wouldn't want
so
to worship this God. I mean, pure the God that burns half or more of the planet. I wouldn't want to worship him. I'm just to tell you that now. He
So you would
burns half of
rather,
the
yeah.
planet.
So I
I'm
guess I
not saying
didn't
that
word
that's
it
what I would
right.
choose, but you're forcing me to make a choice that is only self-preservational, that I don't want to do it. It's like, will you suck this cock or I'll blow your head out? Okay, if I have to suck this cock, but know that I'm doing it at gunpoint.
Man, there's people that rather die, dude. Not everybody's going to choose that. That's a funny example, but yes, that's true. There are people that would rather die. Let me, I guess I didn't ask it correctly. That's my fault. Would you, if the Catholic Christian God was true, would you rather be in heaven, but of course you are full consenting and assenting, giving your will, everything, worship to this God? Or knowing that I don't believe this, I don't like this, I even beyond self-preservation, I'm not going to give my consent to this God and worship it. I'd rather just be away from it in hell. I cannot fathom being in union with something like that. What would y'all choose?
I'm deeply pragmatic, and so like if I thought it was real, I don't think it'd be a real option. I don't think I could exist in heaven and be the person I am. But if I thought that I could, and that worshiping this God would be a better result for me, yeah, sure, I'd probably choose worshiping the God, because
What
like
about you, Robert?
Robert said,
Yeah, I
it's
already said I'd
positive.
suck the cock rather than get my brains blown out of. But I would do it unwillingly. I mean, I would do it because I'm left with the another bad option, right?
So
Yeah,
if it was possible only by full worship and consent, you guys wouldn't make it in, correct?
I
Like
mean,
fully, I am 100% willing to do this. You, like you
I
said
can't
with the gun
make
example.
myself enjoy it, right? I can't make myself enjoy it. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's
So
interesting. Then.
let me ask
Can,
the same question to you, Phantom and Robert, in a different way. Would you like to feel good or feel bad?
right.
good, right?
Yeah, that's
I mean,
the
that's what
one
it
thing.
boils down to. It's the dichotomy of good or bad.
I
Feel
mean,
good
who
or feel
said?
bad.
I mean, yeah, but what if in order to feel good, you had to do something that was totally against your nature?
Yeah, that's
Could
what
you
it
do
boils
it?
down to.
Like for
Well,
example,
Could you
well,
unite? Could you ever unite your nature fully with God in order to go to heaven if you had
I
the
don't think
choice?
I don't think I can change my nature. So like if changing my nature is part of it, that's just not possible.
Uh huh.
it's
Interesting.
like it's like
Yeah.
taking your ego to heaven to be happy one with God.
I give you a good
I
example.
don't think that's possible. Go ahead, Robert.
Can you imagine having fun and smiling, having gay sex and enjoying it, right? And it's like, if could you choose to like enjoy that today? Could you just choose that? Oh yeah, I'm gonna like this,
Well,
right?
No, of course
Robert,
not.
I
You
think he
can't
is
just
gay.
pick that. Well, I'm just saying, using it as an
No, I'm just
example. If you are gay, then do the same thing you're doing the other way. You know, you just can't.
Yeah.
I was just kidding, Aaron. I don't think you're gay. I was just giving him a hard time.
Yeah.
No, I didn't even hear you say it. It cut out. Yeah, I think we could all agree we're not in that situation. I don't know
Yeah,
about y'all, but I don't
y-
think so.
you know, Aaron. One thing that I noticed that even in your questions, you're still talking about emotions and feelings. which which you know, when you tell me that you're coming up with this philosophical explanation
No,
about
this
God,
is
and
just asking funny questions. This does not have to do with anything. I just wanted to pick their brains a
It,
little bit.
it's I look at it like a trolley problem. He's giving us trolley problems.
No, I'm trying to learn more about y'all, and like I said, I like to. I hate to use the word use, but I like to leverage atheist ideas to kind of put them against mine and others and see how they operate throughout the world. Because I mean, I find it interesting. Atheism would probably. I mean, it is the obvious logical conclusion if there's no God, other than just being agnostic and saying, well, maybe. But like, I mean, I find
Well,
you.
see,
I find it
now that
interesting.
there you go. Um,
Two different subjects.
I'm pretty sure Robert and I both use the same atheism the same way, which is not that there is no God, but that we just don't affirm that there is a God. So
Right.
like when you separated atheism and agnosticism, like to us, you would call us both agnostics if we were to describe what our belief statements are.
I would probably say y'all are closer to anti-theistic.
I mean, I do believe that theism does many times damage. I think, and I think you could even say that of other religions quite easily. That you could say, like, Muslims that fly planes into buildings did this for religious reasons, and that was a bad thing. Like, I think that when we're not in that religion and not in that dogma, we can easily see that religions can cause bad things, and that's problematic.
If you're saying religions can cause problems, I would be like an idiot to say it doesn't. But if you're saying systematically an entire concept of God is evil and bad and it causes many problems and
No, I
there's
never said
nothing really
that.
good. No, I'm not saying you did. I'm just saying I get a vibe from atheists a lot of times that they're like that.
Yeah, I wanted to point out something too. Also, I've never called myself an atheist. You called me an atheist. I didn't object because I think it's the word description is, I guess it's accurate. But I don't. I mean, it's like I don't collect stamps either, but I don't go around
Yeah,
calling myself an a stampist or something.
because a lot of people I know that are atheists just cannot stand the concept of a label. I guess maybe it gives them trauma of being called Christian or something. So like, oh,
No,
I'm an
it's not
atheist. I
that.
have a label or something.
It's not that. Like, what happens is when people are, oh, I'm the person is an atheist, they think that says everything about their worldview, and it doesn't. It's just their answer to one single question: do you believe in a god or gods? And if the answer to that is no, I don't have a particular belief in that, then you're an atheist. That's all that is. Like, me and Phantom happen to agree on a bunch of things, but there are many people that don't agree with us at all. We don't have like an atheist church or anything that we like collaborate our beliefs together or anything. There's nothing like that.
So
We
you're
just
telling me that there's no meetings y'all are having? Like instead of going to church, you and
Well,
Robert have a meeting or something?
we're not supposed to talk about that outside
yeah,
of
we
you
can talk
two.
about
Oh,
that
here
You
we
guys
now.
should shut
go.
up now.
That's Javier's trying to get in there, but he hasn't made it yet. Yeah.
what's
But what was I gonna? What
Aaron,
was I
what's
gonna say?
your and Phantom and Robert can also answer this question. What is your motivation to try to come up with an understanding of what God is, Aaron?
Because I two reasons. One reason because it has to do with atheism for both reasons, but the first reason would be is when it comes to revelation, many people that look at the scriptures refer to the obvious stuff, oh God, with slavery, oh God, with genocide, all this and that. So I'm like, okay. And then people on the other side are like, this God couldn't be logical because of free will, or this God couldn't be logical because of omnibenevolence, or all this and that. So I'm like, you know what? I believe what's interesting. I could be wrong in my thought process. I'm fine with that. I'd rather know if I'm wrong. Is I'm like, you know what? If I could find out how God ought to be, and if I could see there's no logical inconsistencies, and then I could connect that to revelation and prove that there's no logical inconsistency. So like we know how God ought to be. Cool. Now let's start what revelation is this? Is this possible or not? Bam, bam. We go to Christianity, let's say Islam, Judaism, whatever. And then we look at their revelations and we say, oh, well, this is a contradiction because God says this is immoral, but he's doing it and it's in his nature in this book, so it can't be real. So
Optimally,
if we could get to the bridge between how God ought to be in Revelation and prove that there's no inconsistencies, then I feel like we could have a very steel man conversation. And I believe that that's possible, that we could prove how God ought to be, and that in the Christian revelation there's no contradiction. So it comes down to, do I agree with this or not, rather than it's wrong. So
Where
optimally,
I kind of want to do that, and that's what I've been journeying towards.
optimally, what are you trying to achieve? You're trying to prove God to yourself or to other people?
I'm trying to prove that, I guess, I don't know if this is selfish or anything, but I'm trying to prove that I guess people like Robert and Fathom ultimately are, a lot of them are either straw manning or they are wrong, and I believe that we could prove that.
Do you think that if you're able to do that, that you're gonna get a good feeling out of it?
Uh, I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna probably go hooroo or hurrah, but I would feel like, nice. I have developed an argument that does make me feel good. We could use this for atheists, because I actually think out of all groups in the entire world, that atheists, if a system is made that way, then they would eventually have to be logically coherent and say, "Oh, I don't agree with it, but it's logically true what you said," and that would
Uh,
be good enough for me. We could start from that point,
you know,
so it
I'm
would feel good, I guess.
yeah,
mm,
I'm trying not to make every single live stream about field state and how we go from a negative field state to a positive one. But in my point of view, everything that you're doing, that you know, Phantom and Robert are doing, and myself are doing, even without a God, or in your case, with the belief in God, you're moving through these field states in order for finding meaning in life.
Find meaning, but I'm also slightly frustrated. I find it that I just am not happy with how people are leaving Christianity for a lot of it that I believe is not good reasons. Some of them are really good. Like, actually, I think Fathom and Robert are very highly intellectual people. And I like to use their intellect to see how it measures up logically. That's why atheists could be useful people. But
I- ima-
I just find it silly. People learn this philosophy, they learn about morality, subjectivism, and they're leading a lot of people astray. So I'm like, okay, we could play the same game. I could read the same books and the same theories that they read, and I could prove otherwise. I could prove that no, God is completely logically coherent within this revelation. It's just they don't like it,
i-
and they
i-
keep going around parading that it's wrong.
i-
I think that they're wrong. So that's kind of a
imagine
mission I find interesting.
imagine how wonderfully good and awesome it would feel to prove Phantom and Robert and myself wrong.
When I say prove wrong, I don't mean to prove that God exists. I mean to prove that God is fully coherent within revelation, scripture, the way that he operates. None of this, oh well, free will is a square circle, all that nonsense. I believe that would make me feel good, but it's not gonna prove to y'all God is true. It's just gonna prove that we could have a conversation without straw manning each other, and we could say these positions are logical even if they're not probable or agreeable. Which I
It
would love
seems
that.
it seems to me that's not your optimum goal.
What would my optimal goal be?
I think optimally we're talking about emotional outcome through proving something that benefits you intellectually, that would put yourself on a positive field state when it relates to atheist. I don't know if
I
I,
guess if we want to reverse engineer that, I mean, it doesn't make me feel good when there's certain things that atheists say and I don't have an answer for it. Or it sounds to me like they could have a point. Like, I've never once heard something Robert or you guys say and think all of it doesn't make sense to an extent.
mm,
Of course, like, who would not be finding it morally apprehensible to read some of Revelation and the scriptures? Like, you read the Old Testament, a lot of it doesn't sound right. Like,
yeah.
I'm not gonna say that y'all are crazy for that, but I'm like, in my brain, I'm thinking there has to be an answer. It's just not that simple.
And
Robert can just read a book and disprove it. I don't think it's that easy. So
no,
that's why I try to look.
If you guys allow me to read some of the messages, Brent A is asking Clear Waters, what do you mean by is? Is implies existence. So are you asking if God exists, what is God made of? And also Brent A is asking Clear Waters, or is it like what definition are you using for God? We're not coming, haven't come to a conclusion of what God is. That's why it's a question, Brent A. Asking the question if anybody knows what God is.
if you don't mind, I wanted to jump in here somewhere. The framework that you're talking about, I believe it's almost like a meta framework, Javier, that it's going to dictate like all of the decisions that we're making are trying to lead towards some sense of emotional satisfaction. Like obviously it's more satisfying for people to agree with us and say, yeah, I think you've got a good point there. There's a certain sense of emotional satisfaction there that is better than people saying, no, I think what you're saying is completely wrong, and you're the things you're saying don't make sense. And it doesn't matter what side of the conversation you're on. So I think everything is operating inside of that framework. Richard Dawkins, in the very book where he coined the word meme, and matter of fact, wrote the book The Selfish Gene, that is kind of determining that everybody is doing something to some degree for selfish reasons. So I think we're all operating inside of that framework. I don't think it does a lot for the conversation to regularly point it out that we're still operating inside of that framework. It's true. It's just inherently true. We are operating inside of that framework.
And I don't
Robert,
think I ever had
When
a problem with that fully.
hold on. When you say that framework, are you referring to the field states that I
Yes.
referred to?
Yes.
I have a difficulty letting go of that subject because it seems to me that in the conversations or the details is not where God is. It's in the why having that conversation, and that why can only be explained by this exchange or exchange of energies.
Yeah, it's the alt problem. I truly think, and I don't know if you know anything about the is alt problem, but I mean, this is the alt, the driver of every alt statement. When we say how things ought to be, like they're dictated by our emotional valences and like what makes us happy. Obviously, if we see a young child getting knocked down and getting candy taken away from it, there's a certain emotional state that is elicited here that we don't like that, and maybe we would even knock down a little bully kid, because it gives us some sense of chagrin to see that kid get his comeuppance. But these behaviors, yeah, we're all operating inside of that framework. I completely grant that.
So let's see if I understand that, because the first time that you point out this. So in the case of like an MMA fighter or a boxer, we're not gonna get into the why they're getting into a ring to probably get hurt or win, but we're gonna talk about how they throw the straight, how they're gonna throw the punches, and then how the other person has cut their eye.
Yeah, it's the chess game analogy. I don't know, Matt Dillahunty did this thing with the chess game a long time ago, and I've used it for an example when we're talking about what we ought to do. Like if we're talking about what is the best move, if we say, if there is no such thing as a best move unless we've agreed that what we want to do is win the game. If we don't want to play the game, then there's no such thing as a best move. Right? But if we've already accepted, okay, I want to play the game, I want to win, then there is a best move that exists in a given state. There's no such thing as a best move if your goal is nothing. You don't have a goal of winning the game, then there's not a best move to acquire that goal.
So if someone asks, why are you trying to achieve the best move, or why are you trying to win? What for?
Right. It just grounds out at I want to. It really does we've had this conversation about colors before. When you ask somebody, what's your favorite color? They'll try to justify it. Some color, they might say blue, and they might say, well, whenever I was a child, I had this thing that was blue. But the more like you psychoanalyze, like, but why did you like that color? Why? At some point, it just grounds out with, I like it. Okay. I just prefer it. I have that preference. I have that affinity, fixation towards that thing. And that's just the bottom of it. That's where the alt starts.
And
But
if I could comment after
oh,
y'all are done
ho-
with this.
hold on, because I find this interesting. So in the case of color, hey, why are you choosing red instead of blue? Man, who cares? I just feel like choosing blue or red,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so I choose to kill a person. Just kill it.
Mhm.
Not to be asking why.
There's all kind of other factors that are playing in there, though. Like, how we interact with you because you did that action. Well, we don't want to operate in a society where someone can just be killed. Why? Because I have kids that I want to preserve. So when we lock you up, we can do the same thing. But why did you lock him up? And we can justify this away too. Well, I want things too. Just like you wanted to kill that person, I don't want to live in a society where people can just do that because my family is then in danger. So you can act on your wants if we're going to do that, but just know that there are consequences and repercussions. We are all going to act in a reciprocal interaction.
So that would be basically saying that a desire is just a desire based on the way you were brought up, and that's it. Just programming.
Sure. Affinity fixations, the way you were brought up, genetic predispositions. There's lots of contributors to it. I think a lot of religions have played this, that God has written it in. I think the Christian religion actually used the term God has written it upon the tables of their hearts. There's a lot of ways that people kind of try to bottom this out or say that the foundation is that there's just something inherently or genetically there that there's a predisposition for. However you want to do it, I would say that there's an evolutionary advantage. There's things like evolved altruism. There's the green beard effect. There are other things that you can look up that could show you how altruism and like moral predispositions evolved and how they were awarded in evolutionary behavior. But they're there. Whatever the structures are that build it, whether it is an evolved moral predisposition or God wrote it on the tablets of our heart, whatever it is, there's our predispositions are there.
In that case, how would you explain people having a totally overnight, like in the case of Diva, or many people that I heard that they change their life just by one prayer or someone praying over them, or overnight because of God? How can you explain those changes,
This
dramatic changes in people's lives, even
Gold
people?
priority. It's
I'm
easy.
sorry, go
That's
ahead.
an easy. It's an easy explanation. It's gold priority. You now developed a new goal that has moved to the very top of your list, and that new goal, you can do the same thing with, hey, I want to play college football. And when someone gets that idea in their head and it seeds, and they understand everything that it's going to take to play college football. Or people have done it in the army. They wanted to be a Green Beret or whatnot. And they've decided that the amount of things that they will sacrifice and change and adjust and reorganize their life and structure just because that goal is now become their affinity fixation, that they want to acquire that. For Christians or for religious people, they want salvation. They want to be seen as righteous. They want to reach that high bar, that high calling of God, as I think Paul calls it. For people who want a Green Beret, they want to walk across that line. I forget what that charge line is when they ring the bell and you become a Green Beret. They want that sensation of pride. Where it happens, where it seeds, I don't know. It's different for different people.
Wouldn't that require a change of emotional state
It is.
in order to provoke the change?
Sure. I think when they decide that will make them more satisfied, but that's just a meme. Like that I say that in the general sense of how it's used. Like there's this ideal that we have attached to that this will make us happy. Maybe we've seen somebody else's happiness. Maybe we've seen somebody else that we looked up to. If we're going to use the example of the Green Beret, for example, we've seen another Green Beret and we've saw them with such a prestigious look, and we said, "Wow, what a heroic individual," and we latched onto that. at some point we decided while we were seeing this and experiencing this emotion about this person, I want to do that. I want to be that. And once we've latched onto it and if it's really seeded good, then that's just the direction you're going to go.
So, if I understand correctly, Robert, there's two views, probably from other views, but two main views of what we're talking about. Talking about the details of, believing in God or boxing or whatever. And there's the emotional motive part of the whatever action the person is doing, boxing or believing in God.
Mhm.
From what I understand, you're saying that probably the conversation should be in the details.
Yeah, it's going to be in the detail of a particular emotion that probably made it happen. In the case of religion, more often than not, it's what's the I'm trying to think of the name of the emotion where you feel a catharsis. It's going to be generally a cathartic experience inside of most religions nowadays. There'll be a cathartic experience that happens that they feel a heavy burden. This generally happens at altars. You're a sinner, all of these weights, all these problems, everything, just let them go. And then you have this cathartic release and you feel like God has taken all this and has made it all feel better. And that moment of cathartic release, you want to feel that again and you want to live up to it, kind of thing. So
So,
I think that sets the tone for the rest of your life, more often than not.
so if I understood correctly, you said that it's not necessary to bring up or bring the attention or to the conversation about the emotionality behind people's actions. Is that what you were telling me?
Well, no, it's not people's actions, but it's in an individual given conversation. Like we're we're talking about a particular subject and we're defending a position, just like as if we're playing a game of chess. And it's like a child comes up to the side and says, "Why are y'all playing that chess?" Like, and this constantly happens. Well, why are y'all playing that chess? Like let's just assume that the motivations are there and that we want to win the chess game. Like asking the question, I'm just not sure what asking the question, why are you even playing chess, means.
So,
We're
okay, I understand more what you're saying. So this is basically the problematic, or not problematic, but a little bit of rejection when someone tries to debate me about God and I don't engage in the debate.
okay.
I don't debate what I call people's emotions, because when
Right, but
someone is
everything's emotions. I mean,
yeah, but how about if everything is emotions, how about we talk about the main subject, emotions, and we're not talking about some subject that is the result of the main subject, which is emotions. And then once we understand the emotions, we can talk about the details. We can it seems to me, my experience, Robert, is that you can get lost in the details and never ever achieve anything. If
yeah,
my
but I
my
think we've both granted though that we want to win the game. Like he's granted that yes, that there's some emotional comfort in winning the argument, in proving that atheists are just creating straw man arguments or something of this effect. Like there is, well, like we already know that there's a certain sense of emotional satisfaction in that, and to the
Yeah.
contrary, from our side, that there's emotional satisfaction in someone understanding there's a particular problem, and they say, okay, I can see that, I can completely understand that problem. There is a sense of emotional satisfaction. I think we're all in agreement that those motivators they're underlined here. They're
so
here. We can't get rid of them, but we're still trying to march forward with the conversation with our motivations in tow.
but then what would be
I could
the
understand that. Yeah, Robert.
what would be the main, really the most important topic, the details of what, or what is supporting the details?
Well, I guess that would be whether we're going purely for emotional satisfaction in a particular outcome, or whether we're going for emotional satisfaction of being correct. Like there it can be that people have certain emotional satisfaction in I want the truth, so to speak. And if a person's satisfaction is only in that they want the truth, then we might see that as a more noble satisfaction than I want a satisfaction, just a satisfactory ending by itself.
There's something in that, Robert, that I mean, I cannot agree honestly, okay? Because it seems to me, for example, I bring you a scenario that for me happens every day around the world. Some guy is upset at his wife, and they're getting into fights. And someone asked me, Javier, I mean, what do you think about this? I mean, I'm having problems with my wife. I'm like, man, wait a second. Come to the source, my friend. The problem is not your wife, it's you. It's how you feel. Want me to continue? Want me to stop? Like, well, continue. What are you talking about? Your wife doesn't exist, my friend. You have this in your mind. I know I don't want to get into esoterics or anything like that. But just think for a moment, your wife doesn't exist, because once you change your feel state or the way you feel, your wife disappears and you're going to find another person. So you have this person in front of you because of how you feel right now. You're the one creating this whole situation. And the person goes like, well, I never thought about that. So what are you saying? That I'm responsible for my feelings? Of course. Now you want to get into the details of fighting with your wife and how she looked at you, or what she said to you this morning, or how she doesn't approve of you coming a little bit late home, whatever, or you want to talk about the source of the problem and fix it, which is you.
So, question: is it basically like, Robert? Are you kind of saying like, yeah, this exists, we know it, it's on both sides, we grant it. Let's try to get to the point of the conversation. Is that what you're
I
trying to
think
say? And like,
I think what he's saying, and Robert can correct me, but what he's saying is all motivations are from feelings. And so pointing out that this motivation is from feelings or that motivation from feelings is kind of like you're just pointing out the thing that is universal to all forms of action. And
Right.
so it's kind of it's a moot point to point out that you're doing because of feelings, because everything we do is because of feelings.
All motivations are feelings.
But
Right.
but the conversation should not stop in the coming to the conclusion that everything is based on feelings. I think that once you understand that, it opens up another world of understanding why you're doing the things that you're doing, and not just get caught up in the details. Because some people that get caught up in the details never find the solution to a problem.
Javier, do you think that there might be some emotional motivations that might have more nobility than other emotional motivations that you would nobility, or something that you would think is a better emotional motivation than another one, and it's generally better for society or something?
It depends on your negative feel state.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a primary thing.
Mhm.
Let's say that someone wants to reach a sexual climax or something like this, and that this is the emotional feeling that they want to feel. They want to feel this, or maybe a cathartic release, opposed to somebody wants to understand a subject till they get a Nobel Prize, right? That they completely exhaust a subject and its understanding to the degree that they receive a Nobel Prize. Like, one of these is a self-satisfactory thing, and it's only going to serve oneself, and the other is going to have a far larger implication of who it serves and how much good it does. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think that probably for myself and for the viewers, can you give another more simpler example? Something more routinary, like every day?
Okay, so if we have the motivation that I want the truth, and it doesn't matter if it damages me in another emotional way, but my motivation is I want the truth of a thing, opposed to I want the thing to be true. Like, these are two different statements.
Mhm. So
I
let me
have
hold on. Let me answer to his
yeah, go
question.
ahead.
It seems to me that a good example is someone that believes in God and they always say the truth. I have the truth. If we get into the details of whatever they think the truth is, and me trying to have a conversation with that person and get into the details and trying to prove to that person that his truth is not really the truth, I don't think I'm going to achieve anything with that until I understand what motivation that person has to put a label to something that he doesn't understand. And then if I bring that person to understand his motivation for coming to that conclusion, I think I have a better chance to come into a better understanding of the person, and the person understanding that they could be wrong. Because understanding feeling, and people think mistakenly that feeling good about something, they think that whatever the outcome is of their feeling good is also good for them or good, and it's not. And that understanding only gonna come when they understand what's behind their motivation or their details about whatever they call the truth.
So can I ask one
But
question
just
before y'all go? Before y'all go,
hold
it's a
on,
good question.
just to
It's
add,
a good one.
just to add, just to
Yeah.
finish the explanation, Robert. I noticed that people get extremely caught up in the details, in problems. It's only when they step back and they look at their humanity and what makes them alive, which is, I'm talking about their feelings, is that they start making sense of whatever is happening in their life.
So is it like bad to feel good if you won a Nobel Peace Prize, Javier?
It's not bad. The only way you're gonna be able to achieve a prize is by feeling good. That's what's going to motivate you to get something out of this life, like a Nobel Prize.
So
There's no
you
way
say the
around it.
only way. It's not. I don't think it's the only way. How about
I
like
don't.
figuring
I,
out some extreme scientific formula that no one knows? That's probably
Well, I think
the
I,
main
I
way to
think
get it.
I think what Javier is saying is that you won't get to the point where you can put in the work to do that if you don't have that motivation, which is feeling good.
exactly. 100%. Thank you, Phantom.
What about discipline? Like some people do stuff that they don't like. It feels horrible. Like a lot of times the gym doesn't feel good.
Yeah, lifting weights.
They still feel good about the results.
Yes.
There's we have first order priorities and second order priorities,
Yeah.
and the person who focuses on the second order priorities, they're the ones who look long term and say, hey, I want this thing in the future. But that still gives them a good feeling when they are working towards those second order priorities.
And
Yeah.
another example of that is salvation. You know, you walk through life carrying your cross. It's extremely difficult, but you walk the whole time knowing and feeling good, knowing that you will be saved and you will live
Yeah,
eternally.
but I do granted, like Robert said, I don't deny it. Like, but I don't think it's like my only priority.
It doesn't
But
matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the priorities. Is what is your field state at the moment. That's it.
in the words of Javier, if I'm gonna make it to heaven, I bet it would feel pretty good. So,
Yes.
I'm
And
gonna have to
so,
but
go. I'll chat with y'all another time, y'all.
yeah,
I'm getting off though.
Cheer,
It's good talking to y'all.
cheer,
Take care.
thank you,
cheer,
yeah.
Robert.
Robert.
Appreciate it.
Later.
I mean
Dang it.
that
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah.
what
Go ahead.
Robert was pointing out, I think that has been so far the most honest pushback on what I'm trying to say, and he did it in a very respectful way. But I still think that what I'm saying applies. I'm not saying that we should close ourselves and say feelings. Oh, I see feelings. No, it's just to get an understanding about how we operate, which I call operate, and then get into the details from a
I
different
feel like
perspective of understanding.
I
So
feel
if
like
you want to get into the details about God, I think you have better understand the believer and what's the believer's motivations first.
I feel like I've said what Robert said before in the past. Like maybe not exactly like it, but I agreed with a lot of what he was saying. But what was I? I was gonna ask one question, but Robert left, so I can only ask Fathom. So before I leave, I'm backtracking a lot because I know Javier went into the emotional aspect. But how do you feel about like the approach that I gave? Because Javier was asking, why am I doing what I'm doing? Like in this aspect of looking into God, connecting it to the revelation, trying to say that we could have a position where there's no straw man, and that I do believe we could prove this all logically connects. Like, how do you feel about that?
Um, so I think, like, I know, I know you said that I strawman you, and I think what I point out is logical inconsistencies that you have not resolved. Um, and we got into, you were talking about why you do this. The reason I do this stuff is because I want to know what you believe, so that when I'm talking to you, I don't strawman you. But when I point out logical inconsistencies, they are actual logical inconsistencies that you haven't resolved. But that's so. I mean, that's kind of what my thought when we were talking about that earlier is.
I wish that they had a like a I don't know. Did they ever have this in Greece or anything? Did they ever have like courts like for logical fallacy or anything like that?
Courts? I don't know
Like
that they.
imagine if that existed. Like you and me could be like, all right, you're wrong, you're wrong. All right, let's see who's actually logically inconsistent. And you go in front of a like a logician judge where he doesn't care if atheism's right or God, but he's like, yeah, Robert, you used something wrong, or yeah, Fathom, you used this correctly, or Aaron, you're wrong. That's never existed before, like for logic.
I don't think that's ever existed for logic. Although we have developed, like, and actually, I'm working on a number of scripts. I'm going to put out a series of videos, going over truth functional logic, which is a language that we've developed, a way of symbolizing logic, and it's agnostic to the meaning. It reduces all the semantic content of an argument to just the structure of the logic.
Man, I would love that. I would tune into that.
Yeah.
I have
So
felt a lot of times that you're pointing of logical inconsistencies that I didn't agree with it, or it was like I wasn't explaining myself right and I could have been inconsistent. But that would be cool though. Like if you put that video out, I would watch it or look at it. I did
well,
check out your channel for a little bit. I didn't really watch anything, but I know you posted about Diva.
I mean, did I post about Diva?
Yeah,
I
you did.
like when I'm in here, I'm streaming here. I don't think I've ever posted anything specifically about Diva. It was just we happened to be in the room at the same time.
No, like literally,
Oh,
like the title of your YouTube video was about Diva.
yeah, he's referring to
Okay. So
yeah.
when we did the cross
Yeah, right
examinations,
here. Diva questions Fathom and Fathom questions Diva.
yeah, when we did the cross examinations, I did split those up, the each 15-minute block into their own videos.
Did Javier, when you put that episode about a formal debate, y'all were the ones that participated, you and Diva?
There was like five or six people. Diva and I did it, and Crypto and I did it, and then Javier did it with a couple people, and I think Robert did it with one person.
See now, Javier, that's really cool. Like I didn't join, I should have, but like one of these days I need to actually prepare and do a formal debate. I
Uh,
love watching them, but I think that'd be so cool.
Aaron, I think it's a nice setup format because it allows you to take the other person and like investigate it, work on the other person because you can ask questions and the only person the other person the only thing can do is just answer. That's the format.
So yeah, do y'all do the like the real? Did you do the real format where it's like opening statements? Like
Yes.
you
No.
mute the other person, they
Yeah.
can't just
Oh,
interrupt you.
Yeah. The last debate that we did. Yes, I added an initial 2 minute. I think it was introduction.
yeah. I
Yeah.
preferred just the straight cross examination part myself. I like that format, but yeah, Javier did do.
I like the more nerdy one where it's like you have opening, and then rebuttal, and then you have actual cross examination where like one person's questioned for 10 minutes and they can only answer, and then the other person can only question or something like
We're,
that.
we're gonna be doing another of those very soon, probably this week. I added those parts like the introduction, but not like 15 minutes introduction. It's like 1 or 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Something I call it mini debates, and yeah, we're gonna do it again. Aaron, you as a believer, I'm gonna ask you this last question, okay?
Yeah.
And for any believers that are right now listening, that you're interested in proving that God is real or whatever, what is the closest thing that you have to yourself that is God's creation?
The closest thing that would be God's creation, like creation, not God itself. You're talking about
Mm,
creation.
yeah. I
Oh
mean,
man,
creation is God, so God is
I
creation,
guess
right?
the closest thing that we have, and I don't know if y'all would find this ridiculous, would be the transubstantiation of the Eucharist.
Oh,
You
So
see,
know,
you're
I
Javier,
have
wh-
I have a
what
better
do you
I have
think,
a better
Phantom?
answer for
Yes.
you.
but
The closest thing to you, Aaron, that is God's creation is you.
Oh, yes.
oh well, that'd be a good answer too. I mean, I
So,
ultimately, yeah.
so yes, of course, that was for me the answer yourself. So, why not talk about God's creation, which is closest to yourself, and
Wait, hold on. Why'd y'all
you
spoon feed me my own answer? I can have an answer if I want.
you said it. It
Y-
was not you.
No, I said the Eucharist, and then you and Fathom were like, "Yeah, this guy, we're gonna guide him to the other side." Man, y'all, this was
Okay,
premeditated.
try it again. Because in my point of view, and Phantom, we have never talked to Phantom about this. And I mean, for me, it's you, ourselves. We're the closest thing to God's creation.
Well, I'm not.
So,
I'm just saying. I wasn't even saying we're humans are the closest thing to God's creation. I'm just saying that to Aaron himself, the closest thing that to him in this
mhm.
very moment, that is God's creation, is him, and that just seems logically true to me.
Like okay, maybe I didn't understand the question
so,
correctly. I
so
thought like the question as in like the closest thing, like bridging God to creation,
my,
which
my
would be
that's
which
not
would be,
even
in my opinion, would have been the Eucharist, because the accidents are created, but the substance is God. So that's the way
well,
that I saw it.
that's not even my main point. And just for viewers to know, we're shutting down the live stream in 10 more minutes. The main point that I'm making with this, in if God was real and He made us, we different from that view, okay, Aaron. But if that was the case, I would see myself as the closest thing from God's creation, and I think that the way to God will be to understand myself. And one of the main things about myself, apart from our sensors, that this is just physical things, the closest energy thing that I can point out is feel. This energy is, I'm noticing, from a time to this point now, is the only thing that apparently is bringing things like thoughts into reality.
Yeah, what's so crazy? And I think it was Fathom that said this, maybe Robert. But when we were talking at the very beginning, what is God? And I said, it's basically the essence of being of eternal act, which is of intellect and will. And I think it was one of y'all that said basically just like a human or something like that.
I don't remember saying that, but
Somebody said that. I think it was Robert. Basically, because humans, because y'all said the two components for God or something like that was to uh to have knowledge and to be able to do something like with their
well,
mind or something like that.
well,
Wasn't that
so
you?
that I
That
was
was
the one who,
Robert.
yeah, I laid out
That
two
was Robert.
criteria that
Oh, no, I'm sorry. That
so
was Phantom. Something like that. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, so I lay out two criteria that whoever I'm talking to, like if they're going to talk to me about a god, these are the things that I'm going to say. If you're the thing we're talking about has these things, I'm going to say yeah, that's a god. And the reason I have those criteria is because I'm not interested in talking to people who get poetic and talk about Spinoza's God or that the universe is God or anything like that, because I believe the universe exists. They're not saying the universe has a mind. They're just trying to be poetic about it, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm just not interested in those conversations. So
Which, yeah,
I've just had these two criteria. If we're going to talk about
I
God,
think, yeah.
you got to have these criteria if you want to talk to me and we're talking about God. That's the only purpose of those criteria.
Yeah.
But it also allows me to say, you know, this thing is a god. This concept would be a god if it exists, and this concept wouldn't.
Yeah,
Um,
which is cool because I think Robert had, maybe I could rerun the footage, but I think it was Robert that said that that somehow relates to kind of like how humans operate. So if
uh,
to answer your question, how, well, at least I see it this way. Something that you said, which was what's the closest thing in creation to, God's creation, you would say you. I would say that we do mirror God in a certain way, which would be we are a being that through our intellect and our will, that's where we get our action. So
sure.
like, yeah, so and then you're saying essentially God, the only way I'm gonna take it serious, we're not talking about the poetic, oh God is thou love and huggeth, like anything like that.
Yeah,
It's through the you said through its intellect, like the knowledge and the ability to do something, which is kind of like will in a way. Like if
sure.
you had will that you could reach out and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So that's pretty neat. I don't know if you take that as neat at all, Javier. That's why I really do feel like I ultimately like these atheists. I don't like when it starts getting anti-theists and all that crap. But once it's like this, like I feel like we could talk to each other and we could sharpen iron and realize, like, okay, it's not creationist, and I'm not going to be teaching 6,000 years and carbon dating is like propaganda to get rid of God. I'm not teaching that. I actually think through reason and faith we could understand God better,
Um,
or we could at least say how God ought to be. And if we could reach a point where me and Fathom and Robert could be in a room and say, "Oh, yeah, that's logically true," even though I don't like it and I don't believe in God, I feel like that would be what I've been wanting to do.
one of the things, Aaron and Phantom, that I've noticed about this conversation about God is that it seems to me that through the debate, we're not making any headway. The conversation has to change, and we gotta talk instead about God, we gotta talk about the believer and the believer's emotions. The debates are not um, clearing the smoke about God. It's not doing it because in these debates, people are talking about their emotions and
Well, it won't.
they're hiding
Yeah,
it, supposedly talking about God.
it won't do something for us because, as far as I know, Fathom ain't gonna move an inch, and I'm not gonna move an inch, and you won't. But to the audience, somebody that's listening could be like, okay, let's compare different views, and that could move them to a different position.
I doubt it.
There are people. I mean, I've
So,
listened to debates to figure out positions I'm not sure on.
I
so
think
from
there's. I'm sorry, just to say something else, Phantom. I think there's more value in understanding the human being, the believer, than just talking about the God and the debate about God. Go ahead, Phantom.
I was going to say, so for me, like my goal in these kinds of conversations is to better understand the person I'm talking to after than I did before. So when you say that we haven't really made any headway, I feel like I have. I feel like I have a better understanding of Aaron now than I did when we started. I know that he's trying to figure out a logically coherent God, and tie that to his revelation. And I also know that I now know that he's either a Catholic or an Orthodox, because he
I'm
spoke about
Catholic, yeah.
and I didn't know that before. So like I know more about him than I did before, and I know that he seems very
Sure.
intellectually honest when he comes to like talking about atheists. He's not interested in like uh belittling the atheists. He generally values our opinions, and I mean I've learned a lot about Aaron in this one conversation, and I appreciate that. And for myself, I count this whole conversation as a big win.
Yeah, I would also agree. Thank you for those words, Fathom. I mean, I've learned a lot. If it wasn't for going on here listening to Fathom and Robert, it wouldn't have probably grinded my gears to learn more about how we could see these views and see how they work with each other. So there is value in that. Maybe not in changing position. Fathom's not going to become Christian. I mean, I'm not going to become atheist, but I understand the atheist view more, and I respect Fathom if he's being, especially if you're being respectful, that helps a lot too. and vice versa. So I see value in that. I don't know how you feel about that, Javier, but I agree with Fathom.
Yes, that's, in these conversations, between us and, having the viewers and the live stream and us having this conversation, absolutely there's value. Otherwise, I would not be here. I'm talking about value about God conversation.
Very interesting. Yeah. What do
So
you think about that, Fathom?
if we're having conversations supposedly to try to get closer to the knowledge of God, it's not happening. It's been thousands of years of debates, and at least myself, I have spent countless hours watching and listening to debates.
So
we're not really debating about a God.
yeah, so here's the problem I have with what I think you're trying to say, Javier. So I often say that truth is constrained and imagination is unconstrained. Okay? And what that means is I can imagine all kinds of possibilities, but there's only one true thing. At most among all those possibilities. Now, without a way to take a set of possibilities and point to some of them and say these are not true, I can't pick any of them out and say which ones are true and which ones are not. And when it comes to and this is what we call that falsifiability. I can take an idea, I can look at it, I can falsify this idea, and therefore whatever's left is more likely to be true because they haven't been falsified. When we talk about God, there's no reliable way to falsify anything about God. So what you end up doing is people have all these ideas and we cannot tell which ones are imagination and which ones are not. Because it all depends on what your starting point is. Like if I start at Hinduism, I end up at the Hindu god. If I start at Buddhism, I end up at Nirvana. There's not a way for everyone to universally agree on a starting point, and so you're never going to get to a concrete definition of God until we have that method of falsifying attributes of a god.
But I'm sorry, are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
It seems to me.
Also, I'm not. I was actually not. I just wanted to say bye to y'all. I'm gonna get going. All right. Sorry, Javier.
Thank
All
you,
right, I'll
Aaron.
leave y'all to it.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Phantom, it seems to me. I don't know. I thought you were going to say something else. We're going to say another conclusion. I mean, I have to agree with what you're saying. It seems to me that there's some stuff probably more valuable to get into the conversation about God. That is not necessarily the book or what other books or what other people's beliefs are, and get into these emotional conversations. I think we have some stuff that could point to a God. I'm talking about ourselves, and I'm talking about our energy that I call, because of a lack of a better word, I call it feel. It seems to me that if there's a God, this is the closest thing that we have to God, because we don't know, we have no idea how this process of us having thoughts in our heads, we can bring it into physicality if it's not because of how we feel. So I think that probably this conversation about God has to take a totally different approach. And I think that the main reason most people that talk about God and debaters and stuff, that talk about this topic about God are not able to pick up on what I'm saying is because their emotions are involved. And I'm not saying that you or Robert are doing this, okay? But there is feelings behind getting engaging in these conversations because there's possibility of switching from one negative feel state, or I'm not even negative, a little bit, in the point one negative point one, to move to a positive one by uh, just educating another person about some knowledge that we have as an atheist or as a non-believer or as a doubter, from someone that is just defining God or the belief they're God just because of how they feel about the God or their beliefs. I don't know if I'm explaining myself on that. We could get into debates as atheists or as non-believers into these discussions because we're finding emotional value in engaging these conversations, and we're not even really interested in talking about God or anything else than just emotionality. I don't know if I explained that very well.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I wasn't really tracking that all the way. I don't think. I don't feel like my atheism is based on feel states. It's based on my epistemology. And like, if someone were to hand me a better epistemology, or like I've asked before, a reliable method to adjudicate non-physical claims, I would be happy to follow that to whatever conclusions it leads, because I learned a long time ago that if you put your conclusion first, you can always find a way to get to your conclusion. But you will ignore data or twist data because you're wanting to get to a specific conclusion. And it's better, you're more likely to get to the truth if you just look at the data without any pre-planned conclusion, and just let it take you to wherever the conclusion leads you. And so I try to live my life that way. I try not to come up with a conclusion before I've looked at the data, and only come to a conclusion after I've looked at all the data.
But you said that you think that probably you're not involved or participating in these field states.
I mean, I
You,
agree
you,
with Robert. I agree with Robert. Everything I do, every action I take is because of a feeling. What I'm saying is, I don't hold my beliefs based on emotions. It's based on following a specific method that seems to be truth tracking. Now, I want to I like this method because I want to know true things, and makes me feel good to know true things. But I didn't pick the method because I I liked it. I picked it because it seems the most likely to lead to truth. And
does
then I let the method dictate my conclusions.
but doesn't it in itself, what you're explaining right now, you're talking about feelings, because it must feel good to you to know.
I just said I like to know true things. That's where the feelings come in. If I didn't like to know true things, I wouldn't care what method I used. But because I like to know true things, I've looked at different methods of finding truth. I've picked the one that looks like it's the most likely to find truth. But
Okay.
when I'm following the method, my feelings don't bear into it. I'm
Yeah.
not like, well, I hope this conclusion comes or that conclusion comes. I don't do that because that's specifically what the method prohibits doing.
Mm.
I
So
can't do that
so
and follow the
basically,
method.
you're saying, Phantom, to me, my understanding, you're using the tool of field state, but you're not making a conclusion using the tool, which in my point of view is the right way to use the tool.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Uh,
would say that I would say that's pretty close to what we're speaking the same language there.
yes, you have used the tool of feel to move somewhere to point B. But in that point B, you're not using your feel to come to a conclusion, which I think
That is correct.
is the best way to use the tool. So I
Yeah.
think this is the problem with most believers. They're using the tool to move from not believing to believing and using the tool for everything else, and thinking that the feel good that they feel from not believing to believing is the truth, and they get stuck in the feel good, which that is not what you're doing. And thank you for explaining very well, because I agree that even when you're using these feel states, you're not coming to the conclusions based entirely on your feel states. I don't know. I have to understand this part a little bit, because I have to admit that that part of the conclusion, when you move from one feel state to the other one, from negative to positive, at one moment you let go of the feel state,
I
because
try
one,
to.
yeah,
I can't. I mean, everyone's biased, and I'm not going to say that I'm not biased, but the goal is to eliminate bias when you're coming to your conclusions,
yeah.
because if you have bias, you're going to come to biased conclusions, and you want to come to all conclusions. You want to adjudicate all conclusions um, without any bias to them. Um, and so that's why I prefer having a method of like a method that's a truth tracking method, and letting that guide my conclusions rather than my emotions.
So one feel state, I don't believe in God. God is love. Versus I don't have anything that proof of God, but I have eyes to see. Most likely, the believing in the God is love, I'm more stuck on some emotional state than coming to the conclusion that I have eyes to see. And probably they're made by God. But at least it's something that I can attest to. I have eyes. I don't know if that's a good example, but again, this is the part that I have to have more conversations about, because I see us moving through this energy from negative field state to positive field states. And even if we pick up the conversation, excuse me, the conversation about God again, we gotta pick it up having, excuse me, having a better understanding about us and how we feel, because I think it will be a more honest approach to understand God once we understand what motivates us to be calling God God. I know. In other words, this whole entire conversations about God probably are taking us to the wrong God, or the wrong understanding of what God is, just because we are looking at things from emotional states and
Oh,
not.
I would. Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
would agree with you. That's why I say um, that truth is unconstrained, or imagination is unconstrained. You're if imagine if truth is constrained and imagination is unconstrained, and you have no way to differentiate truth and imagination, anything you can think of is more likely imagination than truth, because you can have infinite imagination and there's only one truth. So when we can't distinguish between imagination and truth about God, anything you say is going to be more likely, just statistically speaking, more likely to be imagination than true.
That makes a lot of sense. Sense. Phantom Old Boy writes, Dear Waters, glad you made that point again, Javier. The debate about God is keeping us distracted. I think we need to look elsewhere for answers. We as individuals need to learn more about humanity. Yeah,
I mean, if he's trying to say, God helps those who help themselves, or no one's out going to come save us or whatever, I would agree with that. I don't think we should rely on, you know, external salvation to fix the problems we've got. We need to focus on the problem, what we can't do ourselves to fix the problems that we have.
But now that you say that, Phantom, and just to finish the live stream, I mean, now that old boy writes that, unfortunately, Robert left because I wanted to ask him why you want to keep the conversation about God and not about us human beings. What do you think about God? I'm trying to bring, just like old boy says, bring the conversation to the believer, not to the God.
Um, so it to me it goes back to how do you know what is true? Um, and I I don't characterize myself as an anti-theist. But I do think that the things that you have to do to your epistemology, which is how you decide what is true, how you determine things that you believe are true, the things that you have to do to your epistemology to believe in things like gods that are not falsifiable, like that bleeds over to other things that you believe in, and it can cause you to have beliefs that end up being harmful to society. And so like what I often say is I don't really care what you believe. I care about how you came to those beliefs. Um, if you use a truth tracking method, I don't care what you came to. Um, i- i- as long as you use good epistemology in the things that matter to affect a society, I don't really care what you do outside of that. Um, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Cryptoly writes, Javier, just stay God out and just only talk about field states. Yeah, not necessarily Cryptoly. All I'm saying is let's talk about the believer, understand the believer, motivations, how we operate, how we process information, and then come back to the God. And maybe we will be looking to something else, or having a different approach to try to understand God once we understand the believer first. I think it's worth it. Phantom, do you want to say something before we put it down?
No, I think I've said my piece already. That last thing I said is probably like kind of my manifesto. I'd say.
I think that's why Phantom, a lot of the stuff that you say, most of the stuff that you say makes a lot of sense. Uh, I think you're trying to not come to conclusions based on emotions, and I think that is wise
Well, thank
in,
you.
in my point of view. All right, guys. Thank you so much, Phantom, and thank you for everybody else that participating in the voice conversation. Thank you so much for Phantom always providing value to these conversations. Thank you so much, and thank you everybody that have participated in the live stream. Thank you for your questions, everybody. On both vertical and horizontal. Now everybody's joining more the horizontal, so thank you so much, Cryptolee, Ways Cute, Hersey 98, Old Boy, Goba, Dave, of course, Robert, Aaron, and of course, Phantom. Thank you so much. Have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow night again.